Chapter 1067. When Yichen saw this, he waved his right hand, and hundreds of distorted spaces appeared on the drill ground. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals in the drill ground turned to their subordinates and shouted, "Let's go! Let's go!" After the generals gave their orders, the 41 million soldiers of Reincarnation Immortal City mounted their horses and marched toward the distorted spaces. At the border of the Empire of Southeast Asia, the Eastern Players' Army and the Empire of Southeast Asia's army, who had fought countless battles, were in a standoff. After several battles, no one could do anything to the other, which led to the current stalemate. At the location of the Eastern Players' Army, these F***king monkeys from the Southeast continent are really resilient. We've fought so many times, but we can't even break through the border. It can't be helped. The Empire of the Southeastern continent is an alliance of 10 or so small countries. The total population is not small. Moreover, this is a game world. We can only fight each other with weapons. F***CK. If the rules of heaven and earth hadn't changed, and the destructive weapons, bombs, and firearms of the past couldn't be used anymore, these F***king monkeys from the Southeast continent wouldn't have the chance to be so arrogant. F***CK. If the rules hadn't changed, the Eastern players would have conquered the Empire of Southeast Asia in minutes. But that's just an if. F***CK. If the rules hadn't changed, you'd think you'd have equipment. Stop dreaming. Wake up. F***CK. I'm just saying. Why are you so serious? F***CK. What's the use of firearms? As long as Yu of Gojoseon comes, these monkeys from the Southeast continent will all die. F***CK. As if I don't know this. The problem is, will Yu of Gojoseon attack the Empire of Southeast Asia today? If he doesn't attack, this stalemate will continue. I think so. Don't forget that the Empire of Southeast Asia borders the East. Yu of Gojoseon won't let the Empire of Southeast Asia go. If anyone lets the Southeast continent go, Yu of Gojoseon won't let them go. Don't forget what these F***curs did in the past. They killed so many of our comrades and committed so many sins. I think so too. At least Yu of Gojoseon gives me the feeling that he's going to make the East suffer 100,000 times or 10,000 times. Speaking of which, don't you think that Yu of Gojoseon's way of doing things is too cruel? He's going to wipe out an entire country. Although this is a game world and you won't really die, you'll lose a level if you're killed. Once your level drops to 0, you won't be able to survive in the real world. Are you an idiot? F***CK. Have you forgotten what we saw when we came here? These F***king Empire of Southeast Asia players had already crossed the border and stepped into the territory of the Great Han Empire. What are they doing? They're invading the Great Han Empire. Ignore this idiot. The real world is already like this. How could he be such a saint? I agree with Yu of Gojoseon. Kill these F***king foreign players and wipe them all out. We can also benefit from it. Although I want to pretend to be a gentleman, I can't. I came here to fight my way into the Empire of Southeast Asia and reap the benefits. Unfortunately, I didn't succeed. I can only wait for Yu of Gojoseon to come. Me too. At the location of the Empire of Southeast Asia players. These F***king Eastern pigs. They're not letting go of our Empire of Southeast Asia. We can't fight our way in. Why aren't they scramming? So F***king disgusting. If you ask me, we should just attack the East directly. Just like Tuhua back then, we'll do something bigger and more ruthless. Idiot, do you think the Eastern players are cabbages that you can cut and step on as you please? Can't you see that we're evenly matched? That's not the point. The point is that the ones fighting with us now are just the weaklings among the Eastern players. The real overlord, that Yichen guy, hasn't arrived yet. If he does, we'll have to run. Run my ass. So what if Yichen wiped out 4 countries? Our Empire of Southeast Asia has the sea, land, mountains, and forests. Even if we can't beat them, we can use guerrilla warfare. We can drag out the battle and drag out the battle until Yichen's security forces are dead. Heck, don't say that. It seems like Yi Qin's security forces are all cavalry. If you put them in our empire of Southeast Asia, they won't be of much use. Of course. Otherwise, why do you think I'm so bold? I clearly heard that Yi Chun wiped out 4 countries, but I didn't retreat. I'm still here killing Eastern players. Hee hee. If that's the case, then there's nothing to be afraid of about Yi Chun. Of course. What's there to be afraid of? At most, we'll enter the mountains and forests. That way, Yi Chen's cavalry won't be able to do anything. Moreover, the forests are filled with poisonous insects. If you're not from our empire of Southeast Asia, you'll be poisoned to death in a short time. So, there's nothing to be afraid of. Just as the players from the Eastern continent and the empire of the Southeast continent were discussing, the space near the border suddenly twisted. Then, teams of cavalrymen wearing full body armor and holding shiny spears appeared on the battlefield. In just a breath's time, a large flag with the word Yi on a black background appeared on the battlefield. When the Eastern players saw this, they were all stunned. Then they all stood up. Yi of Gojoseon. Yi of Gojoseon is here. After a shout of surprise, the Eastern players' army was instantly in an uproar. Haha, I told you. Yi of Gojoseon will definitely come. He won't let these monkeys from the empire of Southeast Asia go. Hee, this is great. These monkeys from the empire of Southeast Asia are going to become dead monkeys. Sigh, I shouldn't have been so confident in the beginning. I should have just followed Yi of Gojoseon. Why are you talking so much? It's not too late to follow Yi of Gojoseon. At the Eastern Continent players' army, a man with a protruding mouth and ape-like chin next to the leader of the Eastern Continent players' army was stunned when he saw the reincarnation Immortal City's army suddenly appear on the battlefield. Then his expression changed. Damn it, are these cavalrymen Yi Chen's bodyguards? Why can't I see the grade of their equipment with my appraisal skill? What? How is that possible? Isn't your appraisal skill able to even detect the grade of heaven-grade equipment? When the leader of the Empire of Southeast Asia players heard this, his eyes widened. Then he asked hurriedly, Leader, I'm not lying. My appraisal skill really can't detect the grade of these soldiers' equipment. The man with a protruding mouth and ape-like chin replied hurriedly. Chapter 1068. The leader of the players from the Empire of Southeast Asia's face darkened when he heard this. At this moment, an extremely bad feeling involuntarily appeared in his heart. The appraisal skill that could detect heaven-grade equipment had failed on Yi Chen's soldiers. What did this mean? It was very simple. The equipment of Yi Chen's soldiers had surpassed the heaven grade. The leader of the players from the Empire of Southeast Asia had never seen or heard of such equipment before. He couldn't even guess what it was. Even so, the leader of the players from the Empire of Southeast Asia understood one thing. The equipment of Yi Chen's army could crush all the players and natives in the Southeast continent. Of course, this wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that none of the players or natives from the Empire of Southeast Asia could break through the defense of the reincarnation Immortal City soldiers. To be more precise, the players or natives from the Empire of Southeast Asia could only dream of harming the reincarnation Immortal City's soldiers in a battle. This was the reason why the leader of the players from the Empire of Southeast Asia had an ominous feeling in his heart. After coming back to his senses, the leader of the players from the Empire of Southeast Asia glared at the reincarnation Immortal City's army that was still increasing. Then he looked at his monkey-faced subordinate beside him and said, Hurry up and pass down the order. We're retreating. Yes, leader. The monkey-faced man hurriedly bowed when he heard this. Then he ran off to pass down the order from the leader of the players from the Empire of Southeast Asia. Just as the players from the Empire of Southeast Asia received the order from the leader of the Empire of Southeast Asia, 41 million reincarnation Immortal City soldiers appeared at the border. At the location of the reincarnation Immortal City's army, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals looked at each other and smiled. Then they raised the weapons in their right hands in unison and shouted, Charge! Charge! 5 rounds of mounted archery. After the order was given, the messenger of the reincarnation immortal city waved the flag in his hand. In the next second, the distant and drawn-out sound of a bugle horn rang out. At the same time, the 41 million soldiers of the reincarnation immortal city put down their spears and took down their bows. Kill Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals led the charge toward the Empire of Southeast Asia's players. In the next second, the 2,410,000 soldiers of the reincarnation immortal city spurred their horses forward. Huff, 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 41 million war horses neighed in unison. Then, the army of the reincarnation immortal city charged forward. At the same time, the soldiers of the reincarnation immortal city drew their bows and released the bowstrings. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of arrows leaving the bowstrings was instantly heard. Then, 41 million arrows shot up into the sky and covered the sky as they shot toward the army of the Empire of Southeast Asia's players. At the army of the Empire of Southeast Asia's players. The players of the Empire of Southeast Asia, who were unhappy that they had to flee before the battle, were stunned when they saw this scene. F***CK. Am I seeing things? Yi Qin's defense force is at least 5,000 meters away from us. They're shooting at us with their bows and arrows. You're not seeing things. Are we retarded, or are Yi Qin's generals too retarded? You idiot, do you know how to speak properly? How can you say that about yourself? But then again, Yi Qin's subordinates are really stupid. Arrows can only reach a distance of a few hundred meters at most, but they actually started shooting from such a distance. They are so stupid that no medicine can save them. Hee, if that's the case, there's no need for us to retreat. We can just fight them directly. That's right. I've never seen such retarded people. There's no need to be afraid of Yi Qin destroying 4 countries in a row. That's not right. If Yi Qin's subordinates are so retarded, how could they destroy 4 countries in a row? Could it be a trap? That's possible. But there's no way they can be tricked from such a long distance. That's not right. Look, those arrows are flying so high, and they're still flying. Moreover, they have already flown over 2,000 meters. Damn it. Run. There's something wrong with the bows and arrows used by Yi Qin's defense force. F***CK. What kind of bow and arrow is that? How can it shoot so far? It's even farther than a bullet. Stop talking nonsense. Run. Otherwise, we'll become porcupines. The noisy shouting stopped abruptly when the players of the Empire of Southeast Asia realized that something was wrong with the arrows. Then, the players of the Empire of Southeast Asia turned around without hesitation and ran for their lives toward the territory of the Empire of Southeast Asia. No one wanted to die, and the players of the Empire of Southeast Asia felt the same way. However, they had underestimated the power of the bows and arrows of the reincarnation immortal city. They had also underestimated the strength of the war horses of the reincarnation immortal city. More importantly, they had underestimated the strength of the reincarnation immortal city's soldiers. In just a few breaths' time, the arrows that blotted out the sky and covered the sun descended upon the players of the Empire of Southeast Asia. At this moment, the dense sound of arrows piercing through bodies was heard. Poochie, poochie, poochie too. 41 million arrows instantly took away the lives of more than 1 million players of the Empire of Southeast Asia. As far as the eye could see, the frantically fleeing players of the Empire of the Southeast continent had been cleared out, and in the places that had been cleared out, there were tens of thousands of players who had been pushed to their deaths, unable to fall. As for the ground, it was soon dyed red by the blood of the players of the Empire of Southeast Asia. A gentle breeze blew past, and the smell of blood surged. The aura of death began to spread throughout the battlefield. The soldiers of the reincarnation immortal city had advanced to the mortal evolution state on a large scale, and they weren't the type that could be sealed. Such soldiers of the reincarnation immortal city had far more attack power than all the players. With their spirit artifact weapons, their attack power was undoubtedly off the charts. No matter who the reincarnation immortal city attacked, there was only one outcome: death on the spot. Otherwise, the players of the Empire of Southeast Asia wouldn't have been wiped out so quickly. Hundreds of thousands of players would have been injured or severely injured. Rumble, rumble. Tens of thousands of horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. The Reincarnation Immortal City's army charged at the Southeast continent's players with extreme ferocity. As the Reincarnation Immortal City's army charged, the Reincarnation Immortal City's soldiers once again unleashed a rain of arrows. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and the other generals' orders were charge, ride, and shoot 5 rounds. The Reincarnation Immortal City's soldiers wouldn't stop until they were done attacking. Hence, a violent rain of arrows filled with the aura of death appeared once again. The arrows covered the sky as they mercilessly rained down on the players of the Empire of Southeast who were running for their lives. The players of the Empire of Southeast Asia couldn't understand why this happened. In fact, they couldn't be blamed for being confused. After all, the players of the Empire of Southeast Asia didn't know about Yi Qin's Reincarnation Immortal City at all. They also didn't know what the Reincarnation Immortal City meant. To be more precise, the warhorses of the Reincarnation Immortal City had undergone tremendous changes in the immortal land environment of the Reincarnation Immortal City. To be more precise, the grade of the warhorses in the Reincarnation Immortal City had been greatly improved under the influence of the Reincarnation Immortal City. They were far superior to the warhorses in the mortal world, such as the 1,000-mile horse and the 10,000-mile horse. Although they hadn't evolved into Pegasi, they could be regarded as spiritual beasts. These warhorses were like mini bosses in the wilderness. They wouldn't slow down their charging speed just because of the stones and trees that could be seen everywhere. To be more precise, even if the warhorses of the Reincarnation Immortal City stepped on a stone, they would directly crush it violently. If they touched a tree, they would also forcefully crush it. The reason why the Reincarnation Immortal City's army could charge forward without fear was that simple and violent. Although the players of the Empire of Southeast Asia didn't know the reason, how could they not be afraid? How could they not panic? One had to know that the terrain here couldn't stop the Reincarnation Immortal City's army from charging forward. This meant that their chances of escaping would be greatly reduced. In this case, they wouldn't be able to escape from the attack range of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army. Although this was the game world and they wouldn't really die if they were killed, they would lose 10 levels if they were killed. Once they lost 10 levels, their strength would be greatly reduced. In this case, their safety in the real world would be greatly reduced. Their status would also be affected because of this. In the end, they would have everything taken away by others. They would become slaves or even be killed by others. This was what the players of the Empire of the Southeast Continent were worried about, and it was also the source of their fear. Run, run. Don't block the way. Get lost. The players of the Empire of the Southeast Continent were shouting and cursing at each other. At this moment, the remaining players of the Empire of Southeast Asia only had one thought in their minds. Run, run. Even if they couldn't escape, they had to run as fast as they could. As long as they could escape to the mountains, they could avoid being killed by the Reincarnation Immortal City's army. Unfortunately, the idea was good, but the reality was cruel. The Reincarnation Immortal City's army rained down arrows one after another. After the 5th wave, more than 6 million players of the Southeast Continent's army were killed. The remaining 3 million players of the Empire of Southeast Asia didn't have to face the rain of arrows again. However, the players of the Empire of Southeast Asia weren't happy because of this. This was because the Reincarnation Immortal City's army had caught up with them. Just look at the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City, and you will know what it means to cut melons and vegetables. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and Li Yuanba led 41 million Reincarnation Immortal City soldiers and caught up with the remaining players of the Empire of Southeast Asia. They didn't hesitate to start their harvest mode. With one slash, hundreds of players of the Empire of Southeast Asia were decapitated. Broken limbs flew everywhere, and blood spurted everywhere. With one thrust of the spear, hundreds of players of the Empire of Southeast Asia, in a straight line, were pierced through. Blood splattered on the ground. This was a massacre caused by a general using an ordinary weapon. The most brutal one was Li Yuanba, who used 2 hammers. With one swing of his hammers, hundreds of players of the Empire of Southeast Asia were smashed into pieces. Blood, organs, and intestines splattered all over the sky. This was the brutal attack style of Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and Li Yuanba. The soldiers of the Reincarnation Immortal City, who followed closely behind, were much simpler. To be more precise, they just thrust their spears and continued to charge. Then, they thrust their spears and charged again. Rumble, rumble. Tens of thousands of horses galloped, and the ground rumbled. Wherever the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City passed, the players of the Empire of Southeast Asia were stabbed to death and sent flying. Then, they were trampled into blood-red meat paste by the galloping warhorses. After a few breaths, the remaining players of the Empire of Southeast Asia, who had been killed by millions again, broke down. I surrender. I surrender. Don't kill me. I'm willing to submit to Yi Yu of Gojoseon. Let me go. Chapter 1070. The players from the Empire of Southeast Asia did not expect the Reincarnation Immortal City's army to ignore the terrain. They also did not expect the arrows of the Reincarnation Immortal City to be so powerful. Of course, they did not expect that they would not be able to escape into the forest before the Reincarnation Immortal City's army caught up with them. This left the players of the Empire of the Southeastern Continent with 2 unavoidable choices. They could either be killed or surrender. No one wanted to die. The remaining players from the Empire of Southeast Asia did not want to die. Therefore, they chose to surrender without hesitation. They wanted to survive by surrendering. Only by surviving would they not lose 10 levels due to death, and their deaths would not affect them in the real world. Rumble, rumble. Tens of thousands of horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. The Reincarnation Immortal City's army was still charging and mercilessly harvesting the lives of the remaining players from the Empire of Southeast Asia. Mercy, humanity, and sympathy did not exist in the Reincarnation Immortal City's army. This was because their lord, Yi Chun, had ordered them to kill all of them. Therefore, no matter what the players from the Empire of Southeast Asia said about surrendering, the Reincarnation Immortal City's army would not show any mercy or waver. Groups of players from the Empire of Southeast Asia were stabbed to death, sent flying, and then stomped into meat paste. The remaining players from the Empire of Southeast Asia were in disbelief when they saw this scene. Why? We have all surrendered. Doesn't the East treat captives well? I surrender. I really surrender. Don't kill me. I'm willing to be the slave of Yi Yu of Gojoseon of the Great Han Empire. You can't torture captives. This is against international conventions. This is the behavior of the barbarians. The remaining players from the Empire of Southeast Asia were screaming and yelling because of the merciless massacre of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army. They wanted to use this to stop the barbaric massacre of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army, because this was the only way they could survive and prevent the real world from being affected by this. Unfortunately, the players of the Empire of Southeast Asia were obviously overthinking things. Even though the Great Han Empire never tortured or killed captives, and the Reincarnation Immortal City's army was considered the Great Han Empire's defense force, the Reincarnation Immortal City's army only obeyed one person's command, and that was the Lord of Yuzhou, Yi Chun. Rumble, rumble, 10,000 horses galloped and the earth rumbled. The army of the Reincarnation Immortal City did not stop their killing. They did not waver at all. After 10 minutes, the players at the border of the Empire of Southeast Asia were all killed on the spot. As far as the eye could see, the ground was littered with corpses and meat paste. Scarlet blood flowed freely, and a strong smell of blood surged. No one opened their mouths. No one said anything. There was only death all over the ground. The ground was covered in blood mixed with the earth. At the location of the Eastern players' army, Seeing how the reincarnation Immortal City's army easily killed all the players from the Empire of Southeast Asia, the Eastern players swallowed their saliva uncontrollably. I've long heard that King Yuye's army is very powerful. I also think that this rumor is true. But the speed of killing is too fast, isn't it? 10 million people were killed in such a short period of time. Isn't it obvious? Do you even need to ask? By the way, did you guys notice that Yu of Gojoseon's army is a bit too strong? What are you trying to say? Yu of Gojoseon cheated? F*CKU, I didn't mean that. Don't F*King frame me. What I'm trying to say is, what is the realm of Yu of Gojoseon's army? Their combat strength is beyond belief. TSK, what's there to be surprised about? Don't forget that when the shifter race invaded, it was Yu of Gojoseon who dealt with them. It's not surprising that the reincarnation Immortal City's army has such combat strength. Don't talk nonsense. When the shifter race invaded, Yu of Gojoseon personally participated in the battle. Look here, Yu of Gojoseon did not appear. Those who participated in the battle were all Yu of Gojoseon's army. Most importantly, Yu of Gojoseon's army did not summon the White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, or Green Dragon. This is the most terrifying part. F*CK? Do you still want to pry into Yu of Gojoseon's secret? Aren't you afraid that you will be stabbed to death by Yu of Gojoseon and then completely killed? F*CKU? I'm just curious. Can I talk about it? I didn't say that I want to pry into Yu of Gojoseon's secret. If you have any doubts, just keep them to yourself. Let me tell you, no matter whose subordinate you are, or if you really just have some simple doubts, don't speak them out here and don't ask. Otherwise, you will implicate everyone here. We don't want to be implicated by your stupid questions. It's okay. Anyway, Yu of Gojoseon never kills indiscriminately. If he wants to kill, he will only kill those who are enemies of Yu of Gojoseon. No matter what he says or asks, as long as he provokes Yu of Gojoseon, this idiot will end up dead. F*CK, pretend that I didn't say anything while the Eastern players were discussing the terrifying combat power of the reincarnation Immortal City army. The space at the border between the Empire of Southeast Asia and the Great Han Empire suddenly distorted. Then, a huge island that covered the sky suddenly emerged from the distorted space and appeared here. An Eastern player who had witnessed the entire process of the island's appearance was stunned at first. Then his eyes suddenly widened. That's the reincarnation Immortal Island. Yu of Gojoseon is here. Yu of Gojoseon is here. Following this player's shout, the Eastern players looked up at the sky in unison. Then, they couldn't help but be shocked. How could the Eastern players not know who the reincarnation Immortal Island belonged to? Even so, other than the players who had been following Yi Chun to reap benefits, no one had seen the true appearance of the reincarnation Immortal Island. As for the reason, it was very simple. Most of the time, the reincarnation Immortal Island was above the clouds. It was basically a dream for the players to see the reincarnation Immortal Island. Now, these Eastern players who had never seen the reincarnation Immortal Island before saw the vast, majestic, and ethereal reincarnation Immortal Island for the first time. How could they not be shocked? How could they not be shocked? F*CK. This is the reincarnation Immortal Island. I really want to go up and take a look. I want to go up and take a look too, but it's a pity that I can only think about it. How did this reincarnation Immortal Island float? I don't understand at all. Do you even need to think about it? It must be a celestial item. Otherwise, why would it be called the reincarnation Immortal Island? Just as the Eastern players were discussing amongst themselves, a world announcement was suddenly made. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for successfully invading the Empire of Southeast Asia. The world announcement was repeated 3 times, and it instantly caused an uproar in the world channel. Haha, I told you. Yu of Gojoseon will definitely invade the Empire of Southeast Asia. I'm about to reach the border between the Empire of Southeast Asia and the Great Han Empire. I'm about to reach too. This time, I'm going to kill all these monkeys in the Empire of Southeast Asia 10,000 times. The key is to kill those bastards, Ian and I. I'll wipe them out completely, and kill them all until they're level 0. Chapter 1071. The world channel was in an uproar, and the screen was flooded with messages. Yichen raised his eyebrows when he saw the messages. Benefits were eternal. Without benefits, the players would not be so united. However, this is also in line with my benefits. Yichen participated in the World War to destroy countries and seize the heaven and earth's fate. In order to do this, he had to make the foreign players unable to revive their countries. Even Yichen himself could do this, but it would take a lot of Yichen's time. Therefore, Yichen formulated a plan at the beginning of the World War to make use of the players' power to make the foreign players unable to revive their countries. To be more precise, he allowed the Eastern players to follow behind and reap the benefits. In this way, the Eastern players would definitely kill the foreign players who had been destroyed until they were unable to revive their countries. As for the Eastern players, they would not appear if they did not do this. It couldn't be helped. After all, when Yichen destroyed a country, he would kill the players of these countries several times. These foreign players were lambs, waiting to be slaughtered. They were not a threat at all. The Eastern players would not ignore these EXP babies. Therefore, in the end, no matter where the Eastern players followed Yichen, the foreign players would be killed by the Eastern players. They would be killed in the cruel real world. This was Yichen's plan. It was cruel and bloody, and there would be no changes. At this thought, Yichen looked at the reincarnation Immortal City's army on the ground and shouted, "After we pass through the forest in front of you, we will attack the huge city at the border of the Empire of Southeast Asia, Jaiwat." On the ground, where the reincarnation Immortal City's army was, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals heard Yichen's message and looked at the reincarnation Immortal Island. They bowed and cupped their fists. "Yes, my lord." In the next second, all of the generals raised their weapons and shouted, "Let's go! Let's go! Give it Megalopolis!" After the generals gave their orders, the messenger raised the flag in his hand and waved it back and forth. In the next second, the long and drawn-out sound of a bugle horn rang out. Then Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals all turned around and charged into the forest. At the same time, the army of the reincarnation Immortal City, which had stopped not too long ago, started to move again. After that, they charged into the forest without any hesitation. It was a well-known fact that the mountains and forests were not conducive to riding horses. In order to reach the border city of the Empire of Southeast Asia, give it Megalopolis, one had to pass through the mountains and forests. If it was an ordinary army, they would definitely dismount and walk. However, the army of Reincarnation Immortal City did not need to do so. This was because the war horses in the Reincarnation Immortal City were already extraordinary. It was not a problem for them to travel through the forest. This could be easily seen from the fact that the war horses of the Reincarnation Immortal City could easily crush the rocks and trees in front of them when they galloped at full speed. This was also the reason why the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City did not dismount after receiving Yichen's order. Instead, they continued to gallop at full speed. As for why Yichen did not use the space teleportation ability to teleport the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City directly to give it Megalopolis, and instead, he asked the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City to go there by themselves. Of course, this was not because Yichen wanted to test the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City, but because he had to do so. Yichen had no choice but to do so. To be more precise, Yichen wanted to find out the method that the Empire of Southeast Asia had used to kill tens of millions of Eastern players in his previous life. If he found it, Yichen would destroy it without hesitation. If he could not find it, Yichen would pretend that it did not happen. Of course, Yichen made this choice because Yichen had used his divine sense to scan the Empire of Southeast Asia many times, but he had not found anything strange. Otherwise, Yichen would not have asked the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City to hurry on their own. Rumble, rumble. Tens of thousands of horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. The army of the Reincarnation Immortal City galloped towards the forest without slowing down. In an instant, dust flew everywhere and gravel flew everywhere. In the distance, the eastern players who saw this scene were all stunned. What's going on? Yu of Gojoseon's army is not slowing down? I'm also puzzled. Although the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City had smashed many trees, there are too many trees in the forest. Moreover, there are many steep areas. Is it really all right for them to charge straight in? It should be fine. Otherwise, why is the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City not slowing down at all? It shouldn't be. I remember that Yu of Gojoseon has the ability to teleport. Is it something like teleportation? No matter what it is, the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City does not have to take such a difficult path. It's definitely not that simple. Otherwise, the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City would not do this. I think so too. I just don't know what is Yu of Gojoseon's motive for doing this. Why are you thinking so much? Yu of Gojoseon must have his reasons for doing this. Let's just watch. What's left is to pick up the equipment and kill the players of the Empire of Southeast Asia. That's right. I think so too. While the Eastern players were discussing the unusual behavior of the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City, Guojia, who had been looking at the 3D map in the Castellan mansion of the Reincarnation Immortal City, suddenly frowned. Then, he activated the Eye of Ghost Deity without hesitation. After a few breaths, Guojia withdrew the Eye of Ghost Deity. Then, he looked at Yi Chun, who was still investigating the Empire of Southeast Asia with his consciousness. He bowed and said, "My lord, there seems to be something wrong with this mountain." When Yi Chun heard Guojia's words, he was slightly taken aback. Then, he looked at Guojia and said, "Speak." "My lord, the forest below us looks normal, and there is nothing unusual about it. However, although the beasts, insects, and birds in it have the same shape, they give me a strange feeling. Therefore, I used the Eye of the Ghost God to investigate it. Although I still didn't find anything unusual, I still feel that there is something strange about this mountain." Guojia hurriedly bowed and said. When Yi Chun heard this, his eyes suddenly widened. Then he looked down at the forest below, where the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City was passing through. The mountain was flat and round like a small boat. On the top of the mountain, there was a volcano that had yet to erupt. Even so, there were trees growing on the mountain. Many beasts, insects, and birds were chirping and walking back and forth. Moreover, they would be frightened by the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City. If there was something strange, this was the only strange thing. After all, animals might appear in places with volcanoes, but it was impossible for large groups of animals to appear. Plants might appear, but they would not be so dense. However, when Yi Chun checked the area earlier, he did not discover anything strange about the trees, insects, birds, and beasts. Now that Guojia had reminded him, Yi Chun naturally would not continue to treat this as normal. To be more precise, Yi Chun's consciousness locked onto the insects, birds, and beasts in the forest again. After a few breaths, Yi Chun suddenly frowned. These birds and beasts had flesh, blood, and souls. They were not demonic beasts or demonic creatures. Just like the results of the previous investigation, there was nothing wrong with them. Chapter 1072. Yi Chun wasn't doubting Guojia's words, nor was he thinking that Guojia was making a mountain out of a molehill. Instead, there was one thing that Yi Chun knew very well. That was Guojia, who was loyal to him, wouldn't say anything that wasn't true at all. To be more precise, Guojia wouldn't purposely say something that wasn't true just to express his loyalty to Yi Chun. That would show that he was working for Yi Chun. Hence, Guojia's words had a basis. And the basis came from Guojia's sixth sense. At first glance, it seemed very mysterious and strange. It didn't seem reliable at all. However, this wasn't something that was unreliable. This was because this was the talent ability that super famous historical generals and officials would have after breaking through to the mortal evolution state. Moreover, the higher one's cultivation state was, the stronger this talent would be. Of course, this ability couldn't be actively controlled. It could only be activated passively. Moreover, it required a specific environment, a specific event, and a specific person. This could be explained by an unseen feeling. Just like the few times Yi Chun had an unseen feeling, it came very strangely and suddenly. It didn't make any sense at all. However, this was the truth. It was precisely because Guo Jia sensed something wrong that he reported it to Yi Chun. Yi Chun naturally knew this very well. Hence, Yi Chun wouldn't think that Guo Jia was spouting nonsense just because he didn't find anything wrong with it. Guo Jia's unseen feeling couldn't possibly be wrong. Thinking about this, Yi Chun's eyes suddenly widened. Then he shouted, "Fiery eyes of truth." As soon as Yi Chun finished speaking, 2 balls of fiery red flames shot out from Yi Chun's eyes. Then, 2 golden rays shot out from Yi Chun's eyes and into the forest below. In the next second, the face of Yi Chun, whose eyes were burning with flames, sank. There was indeed something strange. Under the gaze of Yi Chun's fiery eyes of truth, a thin line that couldn't be seen with the naked eye or the divine sense appeared on each and every one of their bodies. What the hell was this thin line? He hadn't seen it in his previous life. It could even hide from the divine sense. Thinking about this, Yi Chun's gaze followed the thin line all the way to the source. Soon, he saw the source of the thin line at the peak of the boat-shaped mountain below. This was a stone statue with a dog head and a human body. Just as Yi Chun saw, the thin lines on the bodies of the beasts in the forest were all connected to the peak of the mountain that was flat like a small boat. To be more precise, they were connected to the mountain crater at the peak of the mountain. A dog head and a human body it was a stone's of a body. Was it a prop or some kind of totem? After Yi Chun's rebirth, he had seen countless strange things and knew a lot of information. But in his previous life, Yi Chun had never been to the Empire of Southeast Asia, nor had he seen anything similar to a stone statue with a dog head and a human body. Otherwise, Yi Chun wouldn't have been unable to recognize its origin. Of course, even so, Yi Chun could still make an accurate judgment of the stone statue's nature. To be more precise, the stone statue with a dog head and a human body in the crater of the volcano was either a special prop or a totem of some tribe or country. These were the only 2 possibilities that could explain the strange phenomenon of the stone statue with a dog head and a human body. It clearly had no flesh, no soul, and no divine sense. But it was able to create strange, thin lines that connected to the bodies of the beasts, insects, and birds all over the mountain. No matter what it was, he had to destroy it. The stone statue with a dog head and a human body was a prop. It was also a prop with a strange function. Moreover, it was a strange prop that belonged to the Empire of Southeast Asia. There was no point in keeping it. If it was a totem, all the more he couldn't keep it. After all, this was the territory of the Empire of Southeast Asia. A totem that appeared here could only belong to the Empire of Southeast Asia. If he kept it and didn't destroy it, it would only benefit the players or natives of the Empire of Southeast Asia. Thinking of this, Yi Chun raised his right hand and slapped the air. Boom! The sea of clouds churned, and a giant palm appeared instantly. Then, the giant palm that covered the sky appeared out of thin air and slapped directly at the stone statue with a dog head and a human body in the volcano at the peak of the boat-shaped mountain. Boom! It was a loud sound. The stone statue with a dog head and a human body in the crater of the boat-shaped mountain was instantly smashed to pieces by the giant palm. For a moment, the mountain shook and the ground shook, and debris flew everywhere. Yi Chun, who had been releasing his divine sense, frowned when he saw this. The thin lines on the bodies of the beasts, insects, and birds in the forest, they didn't disappear. Wait, why wasn't this boat-shaped mountain damaged? Thinking of this, Yi Chun's huge divine sense instantly enveloped the boat-shaped mountain. This was magical power fluctuations. This boat-shaped mountain was formed by magical power. Just as Yi Chun thought of this, the eyes of the beasts, insects, and birds in the boat-shaped mountain were instantly dyed red. Then, without exception, these beasts, insects, and birds all pounced on the army of the reincarnation immortal city that was passing through the forest. Seeing this, Yi Chen's eyes suddenly widened, and then he roared, "Evil creatures, you're courting death." If Yi Chen couldn't figure out the origin of the stone statue with a dog head and a human body on the peak of the boat-shaped mountain, now, Yi Chen could make an accurate judgment. To be more precise, the boat-shaped mountain was Fu Zhoushan, and the stone statue with a dog head and a human body was Sangurian in the Mud myth, the perverted person who killed his father and married his mother. Yi Chen was so sure because the boat-shaped mountain was not damaged by Yi Chen's attack just now. Of course, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that it was emitting magical power fluctuations. This was completely consistent with the legend in the ink pad, where Sangurian used his magical power to build a big boat in order to marry his mother. After it failed, he kicked the boat and turned it into Fu Zhoushan. With all these factors combined, it was not difficult to make an accurate judgment. The existence of this strange forest was Sangurian, who killed his father and married his mother in the ink pad legend. After all, if there were too many coincidences, it would not be a coincidence. At first glance, this did not make sense. This was because this was the Empire of Southeast Asia, and the ink pad was also a part of the Empire of Southeast Asia. However, this was not the place where the mud monkeys lived. Moreover, the real Fu Zhoushan did not have so many trees and animals. Therefore, it was impossible for Sangurian to appear here. However, the truth was the complete opposite. One should not forget that this was the game world. The countries in the Southeast continent had already merged to form the Empire of Southeast Asia. Most importantly, in the Mud myth, Sangurian was the son of a male dog. Although his mother had a human body, she was the daughter of a sow and the Mud emperor. It was very strange and heavy, but it was the truth. This led to a conclusion. Sangurian had the bloodline of a dog, a sow, and a human. As for the stone statue with a dog's head and a human body in the volcano, it was very simple. The existence represented by the stone statue possessed the bloodline of a dog, as well as the bloodline of a human. At first glance, it was even more logical. Sangurian had the bloodline of a sow, but the stone statue did not have the appearance of a sow. In fact, this was not difficult to understand. One must know that Sangurian did not know that the sow was his grandmother. It was only at the last moment that he learned from his mother that his father was a male dog. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that Yi Chen made a judgment based on these factors. The mountain below the reincarnation fairy island was Fu Zhoushan. The stone statue with a dog's head and a human body, or rather, the wild beasts, insects, and birds all over the mountain were transformed by Sangurian. Chapter 1073. As soon as Yi Chen finished his words, the originally clear sky was instantly filled with dark clouds, and thunder roared. Boom, 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 boom. The beasts, insects, and birds that attacked the army of Reincarnation Immortal City were all struck by the lightning bolts and exploded into pieces of charred flesh that filled the sky. If it were any other time, Yi Chen would definitely stop attacking because the battle had ended. However, Yi Chen did not think so. This was because the Mount Fuzzhausen below the Reincarnation Immortal Island was formed by Sangurian's magic power. If the Mount Fuzzhausen was not destroyed, Sangurian was definitely not dead. Looking at the Mount Fuzzhausen below, Yi Chen raised his left hand and grabbed at the void. At this moment, the heaven and earth Yuan Qi went berserk. Then, below the army of Reincarnation Immortal City on the Mount Fuzzhausen, white clouds appeared without exception. Rise! After Yi Chen shouted, Zhao Yun, Dianwei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals, as well as the soldiers of Reincarnation Immortal City, flew up into the sky. In the distance, the Eastern players who were preparing to go to the place where the players of the Empire of Southeast Asia died to pick up their equipment and skills were stunned when they saw this scene. What's going on? It should be Yu of Gojoseon using his magic power to attack. Otherwise, it would be impossible for hundreds of thousands of lightning bolts to appear at once. Damn it. What I meant was, why did Yu of Gojoseon use such a powerful magic power? It's very simple. There must be an enemy in the forest, and it must be a very powerful enemy. Otherwise, why would Yu of Gojoseon use such a powerful magic power? He even sent his subordinates into the sky. What kind of enemy is it? F***CK. Don't tell me it's that big boss from Scylla Country who calls himself the Demon Lord? It's hard to say, but it's definitely not a simple answer. While the Eastern players were discussing Yi Chen's sudden attack, the overcast mountain formed by Sangillian's mana started to tremble. Then, a large amount of black smoke floated up from the overcast mountain. At the sight of this, Yi Chen waved his left hand. The army of reincarnation immortal city that had been sent to the sky by Yi Chen earlier instantly retreated and returned to the battlefield. At the same time, Yi Chen waved his right hand, and the pitch-black Godslayer appeared in Yi Chen's right hand. Guojia, who had been looking at the battlefield map, hurriedly turned to Yi Chen and bowed. "My lord, the black smoke coming from the forest below has a soul-devouring smell. Please wait for a moment, my lord." When Yi Chen heard this, he was slightly taken aback. Then, he looked at Guojia and asked, "Feng Xiao, do you have a way to deal with the black smoke?" The black smoke came from Sangillian's mana. Yi Chen, who had activated his golden gaze fiery eyes, could naturally see the attributes of the black smoke. However, Yi Chen did not expect Guojia to be able to see it too. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that Guojia asked Yi Chen to wait for a moment. What did this mean? It was very simple. Guojia most likely had a way to deal with the black smoke. Otherwise, Guojia would not have said this. And this was what surprised Yi Chen. After all, Yi Chen was very clear about Guojia's abilities. To be more precise, from Yi Chen's point of view, Guojia's abilities were unable to deal with the soul-devouring attribute of Sangillian's mana. Otherwise, Yi Chen would not have asked Guojia this question. As soon as Yi Chen finished speaking, Guojia nodded seriously and then bowed. "My lord, I have already mastered a part of the book of the 6 arts. It should be effective." Hearing Guojia's words, Yi Chen's eyes widened and he asked, "What?" He asked, "Feng Xiao, are you serious?" Yi Chen asked this question not because Yi Chen did not have a way to deal with Sangillian, but because the 6 arts that Guojia mentioned were not ordinary skills. They were the 6 great divine powers. As long as one studied the 6 arts deeply enough and practiced them thoroughly enough, the power of the 6 arts would not be something that ordinary abilities could compare to. Originally, Yi Chen thought that Guojia and the others would have to ascend to the untainted world before they could master the 6 arts, even if they only had a superficial understanding of it. Who would have thought that Guojia would say that he had already mastered a part of the book of the 6 arts? What did this mean? It was very simple. Guojia was exceptionally talented, and he was extremely compatible with the book of the 6 arts. Otherwise, such a situation would not have happened. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that Guojia, who had mastered a part of the book of the 6 arts, would shine brightly in the near future. This was a reason why Yi Chen was so serious. After all, Guojia was Yi Chen's subordinate, and he was loyal to Yi Chen. If Guojia could become powerful, he would be of great help to Yi Chen. How could Yi Chen not be happy to see such a thing? As soon as Yi Chen finished speaking, Guojia nodded without hesitation. He then bowed and said, "My lord, I dare not speak recklessly." When Yi Chen heard this, he smiled and said, "In that case, I will leave the overcast mountain to you, Feng Xiao." The overcast mountain was formed by Sangillian's Dharma power, and it contained a soul-devouring aura. It was a kind of evil power. If Yi Chen used the lunar primordial fire or the lunar primordial fire, he would not be able to destroy it. This was because it did not have a physical body, nor was it a soul. It was just pure Dharma power or energy. It was also because of this that Yi Chen was prepared to use the god-killing spear to attack the overcast mountain. He was prepared to shatter the magic power that belonged to Sangurayan, the overcast mountain, and force Sangurayan to reveal his true body. This way, Yi Chen would be able to easily kill Sangurayan. Of course, this was Yi Chen's original plan. But now, there was no need for it. This was because the Book of the Six Arts used the great spirit of the heavens and earth. This kind of power was the nemesis of all evil powers, and Sanguilian's Dharma power was a kind of evil power. Therefore, once the Book of the Six Arts was used, the overcast mountain formed by Dharma power would definitely be destroyed. In this way, Sanguilian, who was hiding somewhere, would definitely be forced to reveal himself. This was also the reason why Guojia persuaded Yi Chun to wait for a while. Of course, Guojia did not deliberately say this to show off. He just did not want Yi Chun to take the risk. After all, the soul-devouring aura emitted by the overcast mountain belonged to the attribute power. It was not that easy to get rid of it. If Yi Chun went alone, he might be seriously injured by the black smoke emitted by the overcast mountain if he was not careful. This was not what Guojia wanted to see. Otherwise, Guojia would not have hurriedly advised Yi Chun to do it himself when he saw that he was going to do it himself. After Yi Chun finished his words, Guojia bowed without hesitation. "Yes, my lord." After Guojia finished his words, he put his right index finger to his mouth and bit it without hesitation. At this moment, Guojia's blood flowed out from his index finger. At the same time, Guojia raised his right hand and started to draw words in the air. In just a breath's time, a blood-red traditional Chinese character slay appeared in the air. At the same time, Guojia, who was drawing words in the air, suddenly opened his eyes and shouted, "The great spirit of righteousness penetrates the sun and the moon, existing forever in the heavens and earth, slaying all evil." Chapter 1074. As soon as Guojia finished speaking, the blood-red kill character formed by Guojia's blood that was floating in mid-air exploded instantly and disappeared into the world. At the same time, waves of mysterious aura appeared in the sky, on the ground, and on the flowers and trees. At this moment, a large amount of pure white qi that was filled with noble aura flew out from the sky and the ground. Then, it flew straight toward the sky above Reincarnation Immortal City. When Yi Chun saw this, his eyes widened abruptly. This was the power contained in Book, one of the six arts. The six arts were indeed extraordinary. Even though he had just started learning it, he could mobilize the noble aura in the world and even some nomological powers. If he mastered it, he could mobilize the power of the world at any time. Not only could he destroy the world, but he could also easily kill golden immortals. At this thought, Yi Chun looked directly at the noble aura that was automatically gathering in the sky above Reincarnation Immortal City. The power of Book was related to one's realm. However, the most important thing was mental strength or soul strength. If that wasn't the case, I could help Guojia and increase the power of this noble aura by tens of thousands of times. However, this would do at least this mixed blood bastard Sangarayan would not be able to continue hiding. Just as Yi Chun thought of this, the ball of righteous qi above the Reincarnation Immortal City suddenly trembled. Then, the ball of righteous qi turned into a pure white ball of light and lit up the entire place. At this moment, the Mount Fu under Reincarnation Immortal City was like a forest that was set on fire. Instantly, flames surged and black smoke billowed. At the same time, an extremely shrill roar suddenly sounded from the Mount Fu. Roar! The roar was filled with intense pain and boundless anger. The Eastern players who heard this roar from afar were all stunned. Then, they widened their eyes. F***CK. I told you. Yi Yu of Gojoseon wouldn't attack casually. There must be an enemy here. Listen, this roar sounds like a super big boss. Nonsense. You think you're smart? F***CK. I've said it before, okay? Don't talk nonsense. Aren't you guys curious about what is making this roar? Does it matter what it is? I only know one thing. If Yi Yu of Gojoseon doesn't make a move now, we'll probably all be dead by the time we pass through here. F***CK. If you didn't mention it, I would have overlooked this point. It seems like it was Yi Yu of Gojoseon who took the initiative to lure out the monsters here. Nonsense, isn't that obvious? But then again, Yi Yu of Gojoseon's actions are equivalent to saving us. How dare you speak the truth? Who is Yi Yu of Gojoseon? He's the #1 player in the East, and he's the #1 player in the world. He's invincible. There's no way he would watch us Eastern players get killed in large numbers. Okay. That's true. If not for that, Yu of Gojosian wouldn't have taken the initiative to attack just now. Due to the sudden roar from Fu Zhoushan, the players from the East were discussing amongst themselves. Yi Chun, who was in the reincarnation Immortal City's City Lord's mansion, narrowed his eyes and looked directly at Fu Zhoushan, which was below the reincarnation Immortal Island. He's coming out. This idiot. Although he's only in the God martial arts realm, he's learned all sorts of skills, and they're extremely obscure. But then again, the tens of millions of Eastern players who attacked the Empire of Southeast Asia in Lin Jie's previous life were most likely killed here, and the source was Sangurayan. At least, from the looks of it, it was him. Yi Chen couldn't be blamed for thinking this way. After all, the Sangurayan's mana contained the soul-devouring attribute. Only this attribute could cause a player to die in the real world when they died in the game world. As for why Yi Chun did not attribute the deaths of tens of millions of Eastern players to Sangurayan in his previous life, it was because there were several ways to enter the Empire of the Southeast Continent. It was not the only way to enter the Empire of the Southeast Continent through the route that Yi Chun was taking. To be more precise, if the players wanted to enter the Empire of Southeast Asia, they could enter the Empire of Southeast Asia from sea. If there were special characters like Sangurayan in other places, and they also had the soul-devouring attribute, the tens of millions of Eastern players who were mysteriously killed in Lin Jie's previous life might not have been Sangurayan's doing. Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that Yi Chun was here, and he definitely wouldn't let such an existence continue to exist. Otherwise, even if the Empire of Southeast Asia was destroyed by Yi Chun, it could be rebuilt with the help of Sangurayan or someone similar to him. There was a high chance that the Eastern players who followed Yi Chun to reap benefits would be killed by someone similar to Sangurayan in the Empire of Southeast Asia after Yi Chun destroyed the Empire of Southeast Asia. If such a situation really happened, the number of Eastern players would be reduced by 100%. Although Yi Chun didn't care about the lives of the players, this would severely affect Yi Chun's plan of using the players' power to seize the fate of all the countries overseas. Yi Chun didn't want such a situation to happen. At the thought of this, Yi Chun flew up into the sky and flew out of Samsara City, arriving at the side of Mount Fuzzhausen. At this moment, Mount Fuzzhausen was like a little demon that had fallen into a pot of boiling oil. It kept trembling and shaking. Unfortunately, the power of the great righteousness wasn't something that could be shaken off by the trembling of Mount Fuzzhausen. Looking at the crazily trembling Fu Shan Mountain, Yi Chun coldly smiled and then shouted. He then shouted, Sangurayan, how long are you going to hide? Roar. An earth-shattering roar immediately rang out. Then, with a kacha sound, the overcast mountain was shattered into pieces. Then, it turned into black smoke that filled the sky and crazily rushed toward the center. At the same time, the originally verdant forest disappeared, revealing a desolate, rocky, and barren hillside. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The sound of frying oil could be heard in an instant following the appearance of the mutation. This was the sound of the power of the great righteousness burning the evil power. The great righteousness in the sky hadn't dissipated yet. It was still exuding a mighty aura, and the great righteousness light was still shining on the ground. Under such an environment, Sangurayan, who had retracted the Mount Fuzzhausen formed by his mana, wouldn't be in a good condition. If there was someone to blame, it would be Sangurayan's power that was completely evil. Otherwise, Guojia's art of calligraphy, which was one of the 6 arts, would be weakened. Chapter 1075. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The sound of frying continued, but soon it stopped. Then, a bare-chested, middle-aged man with a pair of wolfskin shorts around his waist appeared at the spot where Mount Fuzzhausen had originally been. Yi Chun curled his lips in disdain when he saw the middle-aged man who had suddenly appeared. His appearance was he was so ugly that even ghosts and deities would cry. He was even uglier than my subordinate, Dianwei. He really didn't know why those bastards in Indochina described Sangarayan as a handsome man. Yichen couldn't be blamed for thinking that way. After all, in Indochina mythology, Sangarayan had used his handsomeness to move his mother, who didn't recognize him at first when he came of age. Therefore, Sangarayan should belong to the category of handsome men. However, Sangarayan's eyes were different in size. He had two eyebrows, one thick and one thin. He had a triangular head, an upturned nose, and a long dog's mouth. In addition, the blue veins on his face were protruding. He was extremely ugly. No matter how one looked at him, one couldn't see how Sangarayan was handsome. As Yichen thought of this, Sangarayan, who had already revealed his true form, looked at the mass of vital energy above the reincarnation immortal city with disgust. Then, he looked directly at Yichen and shouted, "I didn't attack you or attack you. I didn't attack you, nor did I attack your subordinates. Why are you attacking me?" When Yichen heard this, he glanced at the ugly Sangarayan and said disdainfully, "Why? I came here to destroy the empire of Southeast Asia. Why do you think I'm attacking you? Do you mean that there's no room for negotiation?" Sangarayan's eyes narrowed when he heard this, and he shouted in a deep voice. When Yichen heard this, he sneered and shouted, "Talk about negotiation? Talk my ass. Bastard die." Sangarayan was a special person in Indochina. If Yichen didn't kill him, Sangarayan would either appear directly when Yichen was about to destroy the empire of Southeast Asia, or he would continue to hide and wait for Yichen to leave before coming out. No matter what the outcome was, Yichen didn't want to see it. Therefore, no matter what nonsense Sangarayan said, Yichen wouldn't listen. He would only kill him without hesitation. After Yichen finished speaking, he raised his left hand and pointed at Sangarayan. Buzz! A scorching white fireball that seemed to be able to burn everything appeared instantly and flew directly towards Sangarayan. Previously, Sangarayan had not revealed his true form. Even if Yichen had many tricks up his sleeve, he could not use them on Sangarayan. This was because Yichen, who had used his eyes of fire and gold, couldn't see where Sangarayan's true form was hiding. Now that Sangarayan had come out of his hiding place, or more accurately, from the secret realm at the bottom of Mount Fuzzhausen, Yichen naturally wouldn't be unable to deal with Sangarayan like before. As soon as the pure white fireball appeared, it expanded rapidly against the wind. In the blink of an eye, it had expanded to a size of 100 meters. Sangarayan, who had been extremely vigilant because he had sensed that Yichen's realm was higher than his, narrowed his eyes when he saw this. How is this possible? How can you use the primordial fire of the sun? When Yichen heard Sangarayan's exclamation, he curled his lips in disdain and said, "You're just an ant. You're just an ant. How dare you judge this king?" Sangarayan's face darkened when he heard this, and he took out a bone club without hesitation. The moment the bone club appeared, a chilly wind blew, and 9 pitch-black whirlpools suddenly appeared on the ground. At the same time, a bone-chilling aura rose from the 9 pitch-black whirlpools on the ground. In an instant, a thick layer of ice formed on the ground near the 9 pitch-black whirlpools. Yichen, who was in the sky, frowned when he saw this. The 9 nether frosty pond, this bastard could open the passageway directly to the 9 nether frosty pond. What the hell was going on? The 9 nether frosty pond came from the nether realm, and it contained 9 nether water, which was an extremely cold item. Although it couldn't completely block the sun primordial flame, it could still block it for a while. Of course, this also depended on the amount of 9 nether water. If it wasn't enough, the 9 nether water would be burned into nothingness by the sun primordial flame. Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that Sangarayan, a special person from the empire of Southeast Asia, had summoned the passageway to the 9 nether frosty pond. Yichen couldn't understand this fact. After all, the 9 nether frosty pond was unique to the nether realm. It was impossible for an ordinary person to open a passageway directly to the 9 nether frosty pond. This was because the nether realm wouldn't allow such a thing to happen, especially for someone who used the 9 nether frosty pond to cultivate. Wait a minute. In the legends, Sangarayan had a master, Could it be that Sangurion's ability to open a passageway to the 9 nether frosty pond had something to do with his master? Damn it, it must be so. Otherwise, Sangurion alone wouldn't be able to open a passageway to the 9 nether frosty pond. If that was the case, Sangurion's master should be from the nether realm. That should be it. Otherwise, this bastard wouldn't be able to cultivate spiritual energy with the soul-devouring attribute, just by relying on the cultivation techniques of the mortal realm. At this thought, Yi Chen's eyes widened. This bastard's luck was really good. He actually had a master from the nether realm, and it even gave him the permit to connect to the 9 nether frosty pond. Just as Yi Chen thought of this, the bone club in Sangurion's hand suddenly emitted a cloud of black smoke. Then, the black smoke condensed into a black-furred wild boar in midair. The moment he saw this black-furred wild boar, a strange thought involuntarily appeared in Yi Chen's mind. This should be Sangurion's master, or rather, his grandmother, the black-furred wild boar that drank the urine of the Emperor of Insignia and gave birth to Sangurion's mother. That should be it. Just as Yi Chen thought of this, the black-furred wild boar that had just appeared suddenly looked at Yi Chen and said, "Junior, retreat quickly. Junior, retreat quickly. Otherwise die." Chapter 1076. When Yi Chen heard the black-furred wild boar's threatening words, he laughed coldly and shouted, "Idiot! Idiot! Who gave you the courage to threaten me?" When the black-furred wild boar, which was formed by the black smoke emitted from the bone club in Sangurion's hand, heard this, its eyes turned scarlet. It was obvious that Yi Chen's words had provoked it greatly. Otherwise, it wouldn't have reacted this way. "Junior, I don't care where you came from or how you refined the lunar primordial fire. You'd better leave this place obediently. Otherwise, I'll destroy your divine soul." The black-furred wild boar's threatening words sounded again. Unfortunately, it still didn't make Yi Chen waver. To Yi Chen, even if the black-furred wild boar was in existence from the netherworld, even if it was one of the overlords, it wasn't a big deal. Others might not be able to deal with such a black-furred wild boar, but Yi Chen had his ways. Moreover, one should not forget that Meng Pe, the subordinate that Yi Chen had subdued not long ago, possessed the blood essence and primordial soul of the Grand Wizard Hatu. She was now leading Lucifer and a group of fallen angels in the netherworld to fight for Yi Chen. With Meng Pe around, even if the black-furred wild boar was one of the overlords of the netherworld that occupied the 9 nether glacial pond, it wouldn't be able to threaten Yi Chen. Of course, this black-furred wild boar wasn't one of the overlords of the netherworld. This was something that Yi Chen was very clear about. It was also because of these reasons that Yi Chen wasn't afraid of this black-furred wild boar at all, and he wouldn't care about the black-furred wild boar's threat. Moreover, this black-furred wild boar was just an external incarnation formed by a shred of divine thought. At most, it would be at the tribulation stage. Such a stage posed no threat to Yi Chen at all. How could Yi Chen be afraid or worried? Just as the black-furred wild boar's threat was ignored by Yi Chen, the Grand Sun primordial fire that Yi Chen had released previously had already expanded to a diameter of 10,000 meters. Sangurion, who was holding the bone club, looked at the Grand Sun primordial fire that was hurtling toward him. His eyes suddenly shrank, and he shouted at the black-furred wild boar that only cared about threatening Yi Chen after he revealed his incarnation. "Master, quick! The Grand Sun primordial fire is about to fall." Obviously, Sangurion could open the passage that led to the 9 nether glacial pond, but couldn't make use of the 9 nether waters water. Otherwise, he would Sangurion primordial fires is primordial fire. The black-furred wild boar, boars wild boars, and sits to its stomp. Then, furred wild boars, and furred boar, wild boar, and to see, its blue ripples of light instantly appeared under the black-furred wild boar's foot, and then spread out in the air layer by layer. In the next second, the 9 pitch-black whirlpools suddenly let out a dull roar. Boom, boom, boom. The sound was dull like thunder. Then, 9 pitch-black water pillars spurted out from the 9 pitch-black whirlpools, and they went straight toward the grand sun primordial fire that was attacking Sangarayan. In an instant, the temperature between heaven and earth dropped to negative 200 degrees Celsius. Temperature could affect the environment, regardless of whether it was high or low. Just as the temperature between heaven and earth dropped to 200 degrees Celsius, the ground around the 9 whirlpools was sealed with a layer of ice that was 3 meters thick. The icy power of the 9 nether water was extremely domineering. However, even so, Sangarayan, who was near the 9 pitch-black whirlpools, was not affected at all. It was obvious that the black-furred wild boar had protected Sangarayan. Otherwise, the ugly ghost Sangarayan would have instantly turned into an ice sculpture, and he would have died. The entire process of the transformation was extremely short. In the blink of an eye, the 9 streams of 9 nether water from the nether realm collided with the grand sun primordial fire that was 10,000 meters in diameter. Boom, boom, boom. Dense explosions instantly sounded, and then a large amount of water vapor appeared out of thin air. In the blink of an eye, the water vapor was blown far away by the violent airflow generated by the explosions. In the next second, the place where Mount Fuzzhausen was originally located was completely covered by the thick water vapor. In the distance, the Eastern players who had been watching all this while widened their eyes. Damn, this is a feast for the eyes. The huge fireball, the pitch-black water pillars, the ice sculptures all over the ground, and the water vapor after the explosions. It's so F***king exciting. Nonsense. Why don't you take a look at who created this? I wonder when I could be like this, flying in the sky and burrowing into the ground, creating a sea of fire with a wave of my hand, and creating thousands of lightning bolts with a sneeze. You can definitely do it in your dreams. Damn, don't give me a hard time. Don't tell me that you've never thought of this. I'm just kidding. How could I not have thought of it? To be honest, I didn't have a deep understanding of this game in the past. But now that I've seen Yi Yu of Gojosian, I understand one thing. In the future, we can definitely be like Yi Yu of Gojosian, flying in the sky and burrowing into the ground, living a carefree and happy life. TSK, you only understand now? Let me tell you, those who have seen Yi Yu of Gojosian in action have already realized this. You're too far behind. Yi Yu of Gojosian is our guiding light in the future. Now, I can't wait to become stronger. The Eastern players were discussing the battle between Yi Chun and the black-furred wild boar. Meanwhile, the grand sun primordial fire that collided with the 9 nether water was gradually extinguished. As the grand sun primordial fire was extinguished, the water vapor in the sky instantly turned into ice beads and fell to the ground with crackling sounds. In the sky, Yi Chun couldn't help but raise his eyebrows when he saw this scene. Then, he looked straight at the black-furred wild boar, whose figure had become much dimmer after using the 9 nether water. Idiot, how many more times can you use the 9 nether water? Also, are you really not afraid of angering the Nether River Patriarch? Who exactly are you? The black-furred wild boar's face darkened when it heard this. Then, it looked at Yi Chun with bloodshot eyes and asked. The black-furred wild boar was shocked that a mortal like Yi Chun could use the grand sun primordial fire. Of course, the black-furred wild boar didn't question Yi Chun because it didn't want to get into trouble. After all, the grand sun primordial fire was the unique ability of Demon Emperor Dijuan and Eastern Emperor Tai from the primordial world. If Yi Chun could use it, he must have a deep connection with Demon Emperor Dijuan and Eastern Emperor Tai. The black-furred wild boar didn't want to get into trouble by asking about Yi Chun's background. To be more precise, the black-furred wild boar didn't want to offend Dijuan and Tai too much. After all, knowing that Yi Chun was related to Dijuan and Tai, and not knowing that Yi Chun was related to Dijuan and Tai, were two completely different concepts. The black-furred wild boar couldn't avoid the former at all, but the latter had room to maneuver. It was because of this consideration that the black-furred wild boar had come up to scare Yi Chun, hoping that Yi Chun would back off. But in the end, not only did Yi Chun not back off, but he also directly pointed out the 9th hell water and asked it mockingly, "How many more times can I use the 9th hell water?" Of course, this wasn't the key. The key was that Yi Chun directly scared it by saying, Nether River Patriarch. What did this mean? It was very simple. Yi Chun, who seemed to be related to Dijuan and Tai, not only knew accurate information about the ninth hell water, but also knew a secret that only a few creatures in the Nether Realm knew. The Nether River Patriarch used the ninth hell water to temper his body. Of course, Yi Chun didn't directly say this, but Yi Chun mentioned the Nether River Patriarch and asked the black-furred wild boar if it was afraid of angering the Nether River Patriarch. In the black-furred wild boar's ears, this meant that Yi Chun knew the secret of the Nether River Patriarch using the ninth hell water to temper his body. Otherwise, Yi Chun wouldn't have asked this. Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that Yi Chun knew something that Dijuan and Dongwang Tai didn't. What did this mean? It was very simple. Yi Chun definitely had some connection with some existence in the Nether Realm. Otherwise, Yi Chun wouldn't know so much about the Nether Realm. It was also because of these doubts that the black-furred wild boar's mood suddenly became very bad. There was nothing they could do about it. After all, Yi Chun's behavior was too arrogant. In the black-furred wild boar's eyes, Yi Chun, who feared nothing, definitely had an overlord behind him. And it was an overlord of the Nether Realm that could crush the black-furred wild boar to death. Otherwise, how could Yi Chun be so arrogant and know so many secrets? The black-furred wild boar didn't know who the overlord of the Nether Realm behind Yi Chun was, but no matter who it wasn't someone that the black-furred wild boar could contend against. It was also because of this reason that the black-furred wild boar asked Yi Chun, "Who is it?" To be more precise, the black-furred wild boar was terrified at this moment. Otherwise, it wouldn't have asked this question. When Yi Chun heard the black-furred wild boar's stern question, he curled his lips in disdain and said, "It's not important who I am. Who I am is not important. What's important is what you, the demonic netherworld pig, choose." Chapter 1077. The moment Yi Chun's ambiguous words left his mouth, the demonic nether boar was momentarily stunned, before its face darkened once again. "What do you mean, demonic nether pig? You can choose to live or die, and I can fulfill your wish. What are you going to choose?" Yi Chun raised his eyebrows and asked. Yi Chun did not recognize the origin of the black-furred wild boar at first, but he recognized it now. It was not because Yi Chun remembered the origin of the black-furred wild boar, but because Yi Chun had obtained an accurate answer from Meng Pa. Meng Pa, who possessed the blood essence and primordial spirit of Grand Wizard Hutu, was Yi Chun's subordinate. She was also Yi Chun's woman, and had even undergone soul cultivation with Yi Chun. Therefore, it was not difficult for Yi Chun to contact Meng Pa. To be more precise, Yi Chun only needed to use his soul energy to easily contact Meng Pa, who was currently fighting for Yi Chun in the Nether Realm. Of course, this was not important. What was important was Yi Chun's goal, which was to subdue the demonic nether pig. At first glance, it was somewhat confusing. After all, the demonic nether pig was an existence of the Nether Realm, and was also the subordinate of the Nether Ancestor. Subduing it was basically a dream, and there was no need to spend so much effort. But in reality, the demonic nether pig was really worth Yi Chun's effort. Don't forget, a long time ago, when Yi Chun killed Blood Demon King Xiao Ming, who had committed heinous crimes in his previous life and obtained the seed of the Red Karmic Fire Lotus, he had already decided on the plan to steal the Red Karmic Fire Lotus. Of course, the seed of the Red Lotus of Hellfire had already been used by Yi Chun, and he had refined the hellfire of the Red Lotus. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that Yi Chun wanted to subdue the demonic nether pig in order to seize the Red Lotus of hellfire. As for how to seize it, it was very simple. He just needed to send a message. To be more precise, he wanted the demonic nether pig to inform Yi Chun. As long as the nether demon boar told Yi Chun that the nether patriarch had reached the 9 underworlds frost pond and used the 9 underworlds water to temper his body, Yi Chun could then take the opportunity to sneak into the nether blood sea and release the Red Lotus hellfire to locate the unborn Red Lotus of hellfire. Finally, he could obtain the red lotus of hellfire in advance. If Yi Chan didn't do this, then he could only sneak into the Netherblood Sea. However, there would be two possibilities. Either he would be discovered by the Nether Ancestor, or he would succeed in sneaking in. A successful infiltration was considered a smooth situation. There was nothing much to say about it. If he failed to sneak in and was discovered by the Netherworld Old Ancestor, Yi Chan would take the initiative to meet the Netherworld Old Ancestor. After that, there would be an unavoidable battle. This was not something Yi Chan wanted to see. This didn't mean that Yi Chan was afraid of the Netherworld Old Ancestor. It was because when Yi Chan went to snatch the Red Lotus of Hellfire, his cultivation realm would not be very high. As for the reason, it was very simple. Yi Chan would not wait until the Red Lotus of Hellfire was born to snatch it. It should be noted that when the Red Lotus of Hellfire was born, the three pure ones, Goddess and Vaiwa, and the two bald donkeys of the West had all attained Tao and become saints. Moreover, they all ran to the Blood Sea to snatch the Red Lotus of Hellfire. If Yi Chan really waited until then to make a move, then it would be dangerous. Moreover, it would be extremely dangerous. Yi Chan had a lot of primordial spiritual treasures and primordial precious treasures. One of them was the primordial precious treasure Yi Chan snatched from Taishang Laozi, the dark yellow exquisite pagoda of heaven and earth. If Yi Chan went up against the saints when the Red Lotus of Hellfire was born, not to mention the others, just the three pure ones alone would be enough to make Yi Chan suffer. This did not include Goddess and Vaiwa and the two bald donkeys of the West. If they were included, Yi Chan would not be able to escape. This was not to say that Yi Chan was a coward, nor that Yi Chan lacked courage. It was the truth, because at that time, the Lich Cataclysm had not yet erupted. Yi Chan's cultivation speed would not allow him to attain Tao at that time. To be more precise, the time was too short. Of course, if Yi Chan really did attain Tao and become a saint at that time, it would be a different story. But this was just an if. Even Yi Chan could not judge the real situation. Therefore, Yi Chan could not pin his hopes on the possibility. It was also for this reason that Yi Chan did not intend to wait for the Red Lotus of Hellfire to be born before snatching it. Instead, he planned to sneak into the Blood Sea of the Nether Realm when his strength was sufficient and obtain the unborn Red Lotus of Hellfire in advance. Originally, Yi Chan planned to do it himself after ascending to the Eldritch World. But now, Yi Chan had another choice. To be precise, it was to subdue the demonic Nether Pig and let it inform Yi Chan when the Nether Ancestor went to the 9 frozen pools to cultivate. In this way, Yi Chan's chances of obtaining the Red Lotus of Hellfire in advance would be greatly increased. This was Yi Chan's goal. At first glance, it seemed impossible because the demonic Nether Pig's main body was in the Nether Realm. Moreover, Yi Chan wanted to kill the demonic Nether Pig's grandson. Therefore, it was impossible for the demonic Nether Pig to submit to Yi Chan. In reality, there was not much difference. However, nothing was impossible in this world. Moreover, it was not impossible for Yi Chan to sneak into the Nether Realm and face the demonic Nether Pig's main body directly. One had to know that Yi Chan had previously obtained a large number of Nether Pass tokens. As long as Yi Chan used the Nether Pass tokens, he could directly enter the Nether Realm. In this way, the basic requirement for subduing the demonic Nether Pig was met. The rest would depend on Yi Chan's methods and the demonic Nether Pig's willpower. The moment Yi Chan's words fell, the demonic Nether Pig's eyes turned even redder. It cannot be helped. Yi Chan's words were too provocative. A tribulation passing stage, and actually dared to threaten a sky immortal. Was there any justice in this world? Was there any law? This was the reason why the demonic Nether Pig became even angrier. Junior, didn't your elders teach you not to be arrogant and conceited? The demonic Nether Pig did not know who the mighty figure behind Yi Chan was. It looked at Yi Chan with a ferocious expression and asked in a deep voice. When Yi Chan heard this, he smiled and said, "Demonic Nether Pig, you are really pitiful. Underworld demonic pig, to be honest, you're very pitiful. Although I don't know why your clone came to this world, you shouldn't have left your bloodline in this world. You should know that your actions will cause you to lose a large amount of luck, and you will also be punished by the underworld's laws. When the demonic nether pig heard this, it widened its eyes and roared, I don't need you to teach me what to do. When Yi Chen heard this, he curled his lips in disdain. At this moment, Yi Chen's primordial spirit received Meng Po's voice transmission. Husband, I have arrived at the 9 underworld frost pond. When Yi Chen heard this, his eyes widened. The plan to subdue the demonic nether pig could begin. Chapter 1078. At this thought, Yi Chen looked at the demonic nether pig and asked, Demonic nether pig? Demonic nether pig, do you choose to live or die? Live? Die? The demonic nether pig was stunned when it heard Yi Chen's question. Then it glared at him. Junior, aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? Stubborn. I'll destroy your clone first. I'll deal with your real body later. Yi Chen narrowed his eyes and shouted. After Yi Chen finished speaking, he raised his left hand and tapped the air. Fall. The moment Yi Chen's fall character appeared, an earth-shaking explosion instantly resounded. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, 2 blood-red lightning bolts as thick as an arm appeared out of thin air and struck the demonic nether pig that was floating in midair. Sangurian, who was holding a bone club and was stunned by the conversation between Yi Chen and the demonic nether pig, was also stunned. When the demonic netherworld pig saw this, its face, which was already stunned by Yi Chen's words, suddenly froze. Then it saw the demonic netherworld pig's eyes shrink. This is the red karmic fire thunder. How is this possible? How can you control the red karmic fire thunder? The red karmic fire thunder was a special type of lightning that was almost like a heavenly punishment. It contained the power of the red lotus karmic fire and the violent power of lightning. It was extremely lethal. Ordinary immortals would avoid it even if they saw it. Even a heaven immortal would be crippled if they were hit by the red karmic fire thunder. Of course, the prerequisite was that the heaven immortal struck by the red karmic fire thunder did not have any defensive treasures or special lightning-type cultivation techniques. However, this was not important. What was important was that the red karmic fire thunder was extremely powerful. However, it had only appeared in special heavenly tribulations and heavenly punishment. No one had ever been able to refine the red karmic fire thunder. Now, what did the demonic nether pig see? An ant that it could easily crush had actually refined and controlled the red karmic fire thunder that even the emptiness world and nether realm experts could not control. How could the demonic nether boar not be shocked by such an outcome? The demonic nether boar did not want to believe this, but the truth was right in front of it. The ant it thought had really refined the red karmic fire lightning. Just as the demonic nether boar was shocked by the red karmic fire lightning, 2 arm-thick bolts of red karmic fire lightning struck the demonic nether boar and ugly ghost Sangurian. At that instant, a loud explosion took place. Boom, boom. Ugly ghost Sangurian and the demonic nether boar didn't even have time to react before they were instantly blasted into pieces. At the same time, 2 demonic blood-red lotuses appeared out of nowhere and enveloped the primordial spirits of Sangurian and the demonic nether pig. Boom, boom, boom. The blood lotus bloomed, and the demonic blood-red flames burned the primordial spirits of Sangurian and the demonic nether boar. In the next second, an extremely mournful howl instantly rang out. "Oh, master, save me!" As soon as the primordial spirit of ugly ghost Sangurian screamed in fear, the demonic nether pig roared loudly. "I'll submit to you. Let him go. If it were someone else, I might have agreed to your request. Unfortunately, this ugly guy came from the ink pad and is the belief of the monkeys in the ink pad. Therefore, he must die." When Yi Chen heard this, he glanced at the primordial spirit of the demonic nether boar, who was being burned by the red lotus hellfire and the red lightning. "If you don't let him go, I will definitely not submit to you." When the demonic nether boar heard this, the pig face transformed from the primordial spirit instantly became extremely hideous. It then roared at Yi Chen. When Yi Chen heard this, he curled his lips in disdain and said, You don't have the right to negotiate with me. As soon as Yi-chun finished speaking, Sangurian's pleading voice rang out. I'll submit. I surrender. Master, please spare me. I'll submit to you. When Yi-chun heard Sangurian's pleading voice, he sneered and said, You're just trash. What use do I have for you? Ah, no, let me go. I don't want to die. Master, save me. Save me. As soon as the primordial spirit of Sangurian's wails fell to the ground, there was no more sound. Then, Sangurian's primordial spirit rapidly faded and was burned into ashes that drifted away with the wind. At this moment, the system's notification rang out. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi-chun for successfully killing Sangurian. Due to his special status, player Yi-chun is specially rewarded with 1,000 innate attribute points. As soon as the system's notification ended, a world announcement rang out. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi-chun for successfully killing Sangurian. Due to his special status, player Yi-chun is additionally rewarded with 1,000 innate attribute points. The world announcement rang out 3 times in a row and instantly caused an uproar in the world channel. Damn! What did I just hear? Sangurian? You didn't hear wrongly. It's Sangurian. Hey, who's Sangurian? He's a deity in Indo-European mythology. It seems that he killed his father and married his mother. However, he didn't succeed in marrying his mother. You didn't say everything. Also, the mother of this idiot Sangurian seems to be the offspring of the Indo-European emperor and a sow. His father is a male dog. Damn, I've learned something new. No wonder the monkeys in Indo-European mythology are so frustrated. They're just a bunch of bastards. Hee, that's true. However, Yu of Gojoseon is attacking the Empire of Southeast Asia this time. Don't show any mercy, especially when you're in Indo-European territory. Kill them all. Kill them until they're level 0. Continue to kill them. Kill them until they kneel down and sing Conquer. Ha ha, brother, that's what I think too. I'm already at the border. Look, I can see Yu of Gojoseon's reincarnation fairy island. I'm here too. The world channel was abuzz with activity. Yi-chun couldn't help but raise his eyebrows when he saw it. Kill, the more ruthless, the better. Just as Yi-chun thought of this, the demonic nether pig's primordial spirit, which had been stunned by Sangurian's death and allowed the red lotus hellfire and red lightning to burn and bombard it, suddenly came back to its senses and let out a cry filled with anger and despair. No, I'll ask you one more time. Do you choose to live or die? Yi-chun asked after glancing at the demonic nether pig. When the demonic nether pig heard Yi-chun's question, its eyes, which had turned bloodshot due to Sangurian's death, opened wide and roared, You ant! I don't care who your backer is. I, the demonic nether pig, swear to the heavens that in this life I will. The demonic nether boar's words came to an abrupt end. In the next second, an extremely horrified scream was heard. Who are you? Chapter 1079. As soon as the demonic nether boar finished speaking, the primordial spirit of the demonic nether boar, which had been bombarded by the red lotus hellfire and the red lightning, was burned into nothingness in the blink of an eye, because it had stopped resisting. Yi-chun raised his eyebrows when he saw this. At this moment, Mengpo's voice suddenly rang in Yi-chun's mind. Husband, I have the demonic nether boar under control. Hearing this, Yi-chun nodded with a smile, and then sent a voice transmission. Madam, please wait for a moment. I'll go over now. Mengpo could freely travel between the nether realm and the human realm, because she had recognized Yi-chun as her master and was very powerful. Even so, Mengpo could forget about forcefully bringing the demonic nether boar to the human realm. As for the reason, it was very simple. The demonic nether boar and Yi-chun did not have a subordinate relationship. Under such circumstances, no matter how powerful Mengpo was, she could forget about bringing the demonic nether boar to the human realm. This was the restriction of the laws of heaven and earth, and no one could change it. It was also because of this reason that Yi-chun decided to go directly to the nether realm. Of course, even if he wanted to go to the nether realm, he could not do so openly. After all, Yi-chan was currently in the Tribulation Transcendent stage. If he went to the Nether Realm openly, he would definitely be treated as an ascended player and be branded with the laws of heaven and earth that were exclusive to ascended players. In this way, Yi-chan would be restricted by the laws of heaven and earth, and it would be impossible for him to return to the Three Kingdoms beginners area. This was not an outcome that Yi-chan wanted to see. After all, the reason why Yi-chan had remained in the Three Kingdoms beginners area until now was to complete the plan that he had set from the beginning, to ascend. It was also because of this reason that Yi-chan had told Meng Po to wait for a moment. This was because Yi-chan had to make some preparations to prevent such a situation from happening. To be more precise, it was to prevent the Nether Realm's heavenly Tao from detecting Yi-chan. To be more precise, Yi-chan wanted to take out the 12 Khanate Copper Men of Destiny and activate the array formation within the 12 Khanate Copper Men of Destiny. Finally, Yi-chan would bring the 12 Khanate Copper Men of Destiny into the underworld. This way, the moment Yi-chan entered the Nether Realm, he would directly disrupt the heavenly secrets of the Nether Realm. Even if the heavenly Tao of the Nether Realm sensed that something was amiss, it would still take some time to deduce that it was Yi-chan. And this time was enough for Yi-chan to complete what he wanted to do and return to the Three Kingdoms Novice Zone. This way, Yi-chan could avoid the matter of being ascended and unable to return to the Three Kingdoms Novice Zone. At first glance, what Yi-chan was doing was exhausting and extremely dangerous. The slightest mistake would cause all his previous efforts to go to waste. It was not worth it at all. However, that was not the case. This was because the Khanate Cardinal Treasure, the 12th grade Red Karmic Fire Lotus, was really worth Yi-chan doing so. There was no other way. After all, Khanate Cardinal Treasures were rare and unique. Otherwise, why would the sages be like cats that had smelled blood the moment a Khanate Numinous Treasure appeared? One after another, they arrived faster than the other. Yi-chan did not want to be the kind of person who did not dare to take action despite the opportunity in front of him. In the end, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Furthermore, Yi-chan was confident that the Nether Realm's heavenly Tao would not detect his infiltration. This was because other than the 12 Khanate Copper Men of Destiny that could disrupt the heavenly secrets, Yi-chan also had the even more powerful Escaped One. With the Escaped One, it was not difficult for Yi-chan to hide and sneak into the Nether Realm. At least, for a certain period of time, the Nether Realm's heavenly Tao would not be able to detect Yi-chan sneaking into the Nether Realm under the chaos of the heavenly secrets. As for the Escaped One, Yi-chan still had to use the 12 Khanate Copper Men of Destiny to ensure that nothing went wrong. Yi-chan did not want his plan to fail because of one less preparation. Of course, this was not important. The important thing was that Yi-chan could not give up on his plan to subdue the demonic Nether Pig. Even if the demonic Nether Pig was not 100% subdued, Yi-chan still had to carry out this plan. If he did not try, how would he know if he could succeed? If he gave up without even trying, then Yi-chan would not be Yi-chan. The moment Yi-chan's voice fell, Granny Meng's voice sounded again. Husband, although the Nether Realm is different from the Primordial world, you cannot stay here for long. Otherwise, your plan might very well be in vain. I understand. When Yi-chan heard this, he could not help but feel warmth in his heart. Then he waved his right hand, and the 12 Khanate Copper Men of Destiny instantly appeared beside Yi-chan. Looking at the 12 Khanate Copper Men of Destiny floating in front of him, Yi-chan used his mind, and the 12 Khanate Copper Men of Destiny instantly surrounded Yi-chan. In the next second, a mysterious fluctuation suddenly rose from the 12 Khanate Copper Men of Destiny. Then, simple golden runes that resembled tadpoles appeared in the sky. In the blink of an eye, they formed a golden light screen made up of golden tadpole runes, and then firmly enveloped Yi-chan. At this moment, the aura emanating from Yi-chan's body disappeared without a trace. In the distance, the Eastern players who had been watching Yi-chan were all stunned. Then, they could not help but widen their eyes. What kind of spell is this? Damn, why does it look like a scripture? Is there an enemy that has not been killed? I'm not sure, but this spell is very majestic and cool. I think that this spell should be defensive, so there should be another powerful monster appearing. Damn, it can't be, right? This is the Empire of Southeast Asia. It can't be that there are many powerful monsters. Who knows? Anyway, looking at Yu of Gojoseon's actions, it seems to be another big move. When the players saw Yi Chun activate the Heaven Spirit Earth Termination formation that came with the 12 Khanate Coppermen of Destiny, and the brilliant images that appeared automatically, Yi Chun waved his left hand. A black token that ordinary players could not see instantly appeared in Yi Chun's left hand. Looking at the black token in his left hand, Yi Chun chose to use it without hesitation. Ding! Player Yi Chun has successfully used the Netherworld Travel Token. Ding! Detected that player Yi Chun has the coordinates of the Netherworld. Do you want to connect to the coordinates of a Netherworld? After the system notification ended, Yi Chun made his choice. Yes. After Yi Chun made his decision, the system notification sounded again. Ding! Player Yi Chun has successfully opened the passageway to the Netherworld. After the system notification ended, a pitch-black vortex appeared on the ground below the reincarnation fairy island out of thin air. When Yi Chun saw this, he let out a long sigh. Then he looked straight at Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, and the others who had been sent to the battlefield with the Empire of Southeast Asia because of Sangulion's appearance. He shouted, "Everyone is prohibited from approaching this place. Those who disobey will be killed without mercy." The passageway to the Netherworld did not restrict the cultivation of the people who entered. If a player came here and entered, the first person to ascend would definitely be this player. After all, Yi Chun was infiltrating and would not be discovered by the heavenly axiom of the Netherworld. Therefore, even if Yi Chun was the first to enter the Netherworld, he would not be the first player to ascend. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that Yi Chun would not give the benefits of being the first to ascend to the Netherworld to someone else. It was also because of this reason that Yi Chun directly gave the order to not let anyone near this place. Yes, my lord, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals heard this and bowed to Yi Chun in unison. Chapter 1080. When Yi Chun heard this, he nodded in satisfaction and looked at the black vortex on the ground. How long could it last to disrupt the Nether Realm's heavenly secrets and prevent the Nether Realm's heavenly Tao from probing? However, no matter how short it was, it could not be shorter than 15 minutes. If he could not subdue the demonic Nether Pig in a short amount of time, it was basically a failure. Even so, he had to make a trip to the Nether Realm and try to subdue the demonic Nether Pig. This was a rare opportunity. The opportunity that Yi Chun thought of was naturally that the Nether River Patriarch was not in the Nether Realm at the moment. At first glance, it was a little confusing. How did Yi Chun know that the Nether River Patriarch was not in the Nether Realm? In fact, this was not difficult to understand. Just think about how Sangurion easily opened the passage to the 9 depths frosty pond to resist the sun primordial flame just now. If the Nether River Patriarch was in the Nether Realm, Sangurion would not be able to open the passage to the 9 depths frosty pond. This was because the demonic Nether Pig was the one who opened the passage, and the demonic Nether Pig would definitely not dare to secretly open the passage to the 9 depths frosty pond when the Nether River Patriarch was in the Nether Realm. Otherwise, the Nether River Patriarch would have 10,000 ways to make the demonic Nether Pig suffer a fate worse than death. It was also because of this reason that Yi Chun judged that the Nether River Patriarch was not in the Nether Realm. It was also because the Nether River Patriarch was not in the Nether Realm that Yi Chun sent Meng Po directly to the 9 depths frosty pond to capture the demonic Nether Pig. It was also because the Nether River Patriarch was not in the Nether Realm that Yi Chun made the plan to sneak into the Nether Realm and subdue the demonic Nether Pig. This did not mean that Yi Chun was afraid of the Nether River Patriarch, but to avoid trouble. If the Nether River Patriarch was in the Nether Realm, and Yi Chun or Meng Pa used force in the 9 depths Frosty Pond, the Nether River Patriarch would be able to sense the abnormality in the 9 depths Frosty Pond, even though he would not be able to find out who was using force because of Yi Chun's escaped one and the 12 Connate Coppermen of Destiny. He would be able to sense the abnormality in the 9 depths Frosty Pond. Even if Yi Chun had the elusive one, there was no way he could conceal this fact. Therefore, as long as the Nether River Patriarch was in the Nether Realm, Yi Chun and Meng Pu would definitely attract his attention if they fought in the 9th Hell Frost Pond. After that, the Nether River Patriarch would definitely come directly. By then, the battle with the Nether River Patriarch would not be a big deal, because Meng Pu was the Daluo Jinxian. Although she could not kill the Nether River Patriarch, the Nether River Patriarch would not be able to keep Meng Pu and Yi Chun alive. But the problem was that Yi Chun would be discovered by the Nether River Patriarch. After that, Yi Chun would become an ascended player. This was not what Yi Chun wanted to see. It was precisely because of this that Yi Chun felt that this was an extremely rare opportunity to sneak into the Netherworld. Thinking of this, Yi Chun willed his right hand, and the grade 12 innate cardinal treasure, Black Lotus of Annihilation, instantly appeared beneath Yi Chun's feet. Glancing at the grade 12 Black Lotus of Annihilation beneath his feet, Yi Chun said, "You're lucky. I'm going to the Nether Realm. When you're there, you can absorb the negative energy of the Nether Realm. However, don't be too presumptuous and cover too large an area." The grade 12 Black Lotus of Annihilation had already recognized Yi Chun as its master. However, because the Great Tao Immortal Foundation in Yi Chun's Purple Mansion, the Tai Chi Red Lotus Immortal Foundation, automatically burned away negative energy, it was very difficult for the grade 12 Black Lotus of Annihilation to absorb negative energy in the mortal realm. Yi Chun did not want to see this result, but there was no other way. The Tai Chi Red Lotus Immortal Foundation was just that crazy. However, if the grade 12 Black Lotus of Annihilation wanted to unleash its power, it could not do without negative energy other than its own abilities. The more negative energy the grade 12 Black Lotus of Annihilation absorbed, the higher its offensive and defensive power would be, and vice versa. In the mortal realm, it was very difficult for the grade 12 Black Lotus of Annihilation to absorb negative energy because of Yi Chun. However, it was different in the Nether Realm. This was because the Nether Realm did not have many things, but it had a lot of negative energy. Moreover, it was omnipresent and increasing all the time. Even if Yi Chun had the ability to automatically burn away all negative energy within a radius of 10,000 miles, it would not be very useful in the Nether Realm. This was like a drop of water falling into a sea of fire that spanned hundreds of millions of miles, completely unable to extinguish the fire. Therefore, Yi Chun's ability to automatically burn away negative energy was basically equivalent to a decoration in the Nether Realm. There was no other way. Yi Chun was only one person, and the range of his ability was 10,000 miles. However, the Nether Realm was an entire world, and the negative energy was endless. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that if Yi Chun did not take the opportunity to eat the grade 12 Black Lotus of Annihilation when he sneaked into the Nether Realm this time, it would be a waste of this opportunity. As soon as Yi Chun's words fell, the grade 12 Black Lotus of Annihilation that carried Yi Chun instantly shook, and then Yi Chun received the excitement from the grade 12 Black Lotus of Annihilation. Sensing this, Yi Chun could not help but smile, and then flew straight into the pitch-black whirlpool. The moment Yi Chun flew into the black whirlpool, Yi Chun's body disappeared without a trace. At the same time, the reincarnation Immortal City Army, under the orders of Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and other generals, galloped directly toward the passage to the Nether Realm. The reincarnation Immortal City Army only had one thing to do, and that was to obey the orders of their lord, Yi Chun, and not let anyone near the passage to the Nether Realm. The Nether Realm was gray, cold, and lifeless. There was no sunlight, no birds and beasts of the mortal realm, no plants, no flowers, and no grasses. There were only dry sand and stones, ravines, and skeletons everywhere. Here, from time to time, ear-piercing screams and wails that made one's scalp numb could be heard. From time to time, one could see wandering ghosts and all kinds of strange creatures of the Netherrealm. This was the world of the dead, and also the heaven of evil creatures. This was a forbidden zone for humans and all living creatures of flesh and blood. This place was full of dark and evil forces. There is no peace, no love, no affection, only ruthless killing, conspiracy, betrayal, and death. Here, negative energy from all the worlds gathered all the time. There were only two ways to survive here. One was to be strong enough, or rely on the strong. The weak could only be enslaved, trampled, and killed forever. Of course, this was also a common characteristic of the primeval world and the myriad worlds that had been completely changed. To put it simply, the weak were prey to the strong. What was different from other worlds was that the Nether Realm pursued this more thoroughly and purely. The Ninth Glacial Pond was one of the territories of the Nether Realm's mighty figure, the Nether River Patriarch. It was covered in ice and snow all year round. However, the strange thing was that there was not a single trace of ice and snow within 1,000 meters of the Ninth Glacial Pond. At this moment, the Ninth Glacial Pond did not emit earth-shaking breathing sounds like it usually did. Because the owner of this sound, the demonic Nether Pig, had been completely imprisoned at the edge of the Ninth Glacial Pond. The demonic Nether Pig was 100 meters long and 10 meters tall. Its body was made of blue bones, and its body was covered in bone spikes. It looked at the beautiful girl who had easily imprisoned it and asked, "Who are you? Who are you? Why haven't I heard of your name in the Nether Realm? Who I am is not important. What's important is your choice." After hearing the demonic Nether Pig's words, the beautiful girl glanced at it and said coldly. When the demonic Nether Pig heard this, the blue soul fire in its eyes trembled. You're that human's backer." Chapter 1081. It was no wonder that the demonic Nether Pig was so scared. After all, its avatar had also heard what Mengpa said from Yi-Chun when it was in the human realm. At first, it found it strange that Yi-Chun wanted to subdue it even though he couldn't come to the Nether Realm. It was simply a dream. Of course, nothing was absolute. If Yi-Chun could ask for help from his backer, which was a powerhouse in the Nether Realm, then it was still possible. However, would a powerhouse in the Nether Realm offend the Nether River Patriarch for Yi-Chun? Absolutely impossible. Who was the Nether River Patriarch? He was the strongest existence in the Nether Realm. No powerhouse in the Nether Realm would dare to offend the Nether River Patriarch. Otherwise, these people would have to have a taste of the Nether River Patriarch's Yuan Tu and Avicii swords to see how sharp they were. Would anyone dare to taste the power of the Yuan Tu and Avicii swords? No one in the Nether Realm who didn't know that the Yuan Tu and Avicii swords were supreme, killing treasures. Not only did they kill people without karma, but they also specialized in destroying the Taoist body and contaminating the primordial spirit of others. Therefore, in the demonic Nether Pig's opinion, even if Yi-Chun really went to ask for help from his backer in the Nether Realm, he wouldn't succeed. But now, what did the demonic Nether Pig see? The ant that easily destroyed its avatar in the human realm had really asked for help from his backer. Moreover, he had directly come to the Nine Depths Frost Pond and captured it. How could the demonic Nether Pig not be shocked and afraid when it realized this fact? Because the demonic Nether Pig was very clear about one thing. Since Yi-Chun's backer had come, then this backer of Yi-Chun would definitely not leave easily. Just as the blue soul fire in the demonic Nether Pig's eyes started to flicker wildly, the pitch-black whirlpool that had appeared not long ago suddenly lit up. Then, a young man surrounded by 12 bronze statues and standing on a black lotus appeared. If a player saw the young man's appearance, they would definitely recognize him immediately. He was the #1 king of the Great Han Empire, Yu of Beach, Yi-Chun. The young man was none other than Yi-Chun. He was the Yi Chun who had snuck into the Nether Realm to set up a trap in order to obtain the red karmic fire lotus. The instant Yi Chun appeared, the spirit fire in the eyes of the netherworld wild boar, which Granny Meng had firmly imprisoned, was stunned for a moment. Then, with a boom, it ignited with a raging rage. The demonic nether boar was stunned by the sight of Yi Chun, who had killed its grandson and destroyed its clone. It was also enraged by the sight of Yi Chun. It couldn't be helped. Yi Chun was the archenemy of the demonic nether boar, so how could it treat him nicely? Just as the demonic nether boar was enraged, a familiar voice suddenly rang out. "Husband." When Yi Chun heard this, his heart immediately warmed. Then he looked straight at Meng Pa, who had called out to him, and said, "Thank you for your hard work, madam. Being able to work for my husband is the happiest thing in my life." Hearing this, Meng Pa smiled sweetly and said, the demonic nether boar was stunned by Meng Po's words. It was obvious that the demonic nether boar was dumbfounded. This was because of how Meng Po addressed Yi Chun and her attitude towards Yi Chun. It had never imagined that the Daluo Jinxian who had instantly restrained it would be the woman of its archenemy. It had never imagined that a Daluo Jinxian would be so docile. Not only did she not have the attitude that a Daluo Jinxian should have, but she was also so docile. Of course, it had never imagined that Yi Chen's archenemy's backer would be Yi Chen's woman. What this meant was very simple. Today, the demonic nether boar would either submit or die. There was no third option. While the demonic nether boar was still in a daze, Yi Chen looked straight at the grade 12 black lotus of destruction at his feet and said, "Time is limited. Absorb as much as you want, but don't expand the range beyond 10,000 miles." As soon as Yi Chun finished speaking, the grade 12 black lotus of destruction moved twice, then flew into the air and began to absorb the negative energy of the underworld. Meng Pa was stunned for a moment, then her eyes lit up. It was obvious that Meng Pa had recognized the origins of the grade 12 black lotus of destruction. Otherwise, she would not have reacted this way. Yi Chen glanced at the grade 12 black lotus of destruction at his feet, smiled, and flew straight to the ground. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of the demonic nether boar. Looking at the huge demonic nether boar that was covered in bones, Yi Chen nodded in satisfaction and said, "Your potential is not bad. You might be able to advance to the golden immortal stage. As for the Daluo Jinxian, don't even think about it. You're congenitally deficient. What do you want?" When the demonic nether boar heard Yi Chen's comments, the soul fires in its eyes trembled, and it roared. Meng Pa, who was standing beside Yi Chun, saw this and did not hesitate to slap the demonic nether boar. Bang! A loud sound was heard. The demonic nether boar's huge head was slapped into the ground by Meng Po's casual slap. When Yi Chen saw this, he could not help but smile. He then looked at the demonic nether boar and said, "I'll say it again. Submit or die. You choose. You want me to submit? Dream on." When the demonic nether boar heard this, it lifted its head that was slapped into the ground and roared at Yi Chen. When Yi Chen heard this, he let out a long sigh. Then, with a wave of his right hand, the Khanate Cardinal Treasure God Slayer appeared in Yi Chen's right hand. When the demonic nether boar saw this, the soul fires in its eyes trembled violently. In that instant, a feeling of danger involuntarily appeared in the demonic nether boar's soul. When the demonic nether boar sensed danger, Yi Chen stabbed the God Slayer in his right hand at the demonic nether boar. Puchi, the thick, black God Slayer, effortlessly pierced through the demonic nether boar's thick bones. In that instant, an extremely dense aura of destruction erupted from the God Slayer. Then, black smoke suddenly rose from the demonic nether boar's originally normal body. At the same time, an extremely mournful howl sounded from the demonic nether boar's mouth. "Oh!" In the next second, an inexplicably terrified cry sounded from the demonic nether boar's mouth again. "My primordial spirit. This spear can obliterate primordial spirits. How is this possible? Nothing is impossible. When Yi Chun heard the demonic nether boar's inexplicably terrified cry, he curled his lips in disdain and spoke. The God-slaying spear had the God-slaying spear's ability to slay primordial spirits. Although this ability would have different results depending on Yi Chun's cultivation level and the opponent's cultivation level, no matter how it changed, the ability to directly slay a part of the primordial spirit still existed. It was precisely because of this ability of the God-slayer that Yi Chun would use the God-slayer to deal with the demonic nether boar. It couldn't be helped. Ordinary pain, torture, or coercion would not be able to make an immortal submit. There is only one thing that could make an immortal submit, and that was the destruction of their soul. As for the reason, it was very simple. After becoming an immortal, regardless of whether one was a human immortal, ghost immortal, demon immortal, or demonic immortal, as long as they died, they would have the ability to reincarnate, possess another body, and be reborn. Moreover, they would retain the memories of their previous lives. In this way, it would be difficult to regain the cultivation level of one's previous life and continue living an exciting life, but it was not impossible. However, if one's soul was destroyed, then everything would vanish in a thin air, and there would be no trace of it in the world. And this was the outcome that immortals didn't want to see the most. No one wanted to die if they could live, and immortals were no exception. As for why the demonic nether boar was so stubborn at the beginning, it was because of its anger, and because it didn't think that its soul would be destroyed if it was killed by Meng Po or Yi Chun. To be more precise, in the demonic nether boar's opinion, even if it was killed, there was a high chance that its primordial spirit would be able to successfully escape with its special ability, the Earth Elemental Technique. This was because Meng Po was not the Daluo Jinxian that the demonic nether boar was familiar with. She was clearly a newly ascended almighty. In the demonic nether boar's opinion, such a Meng Po would not have any special treasures, nor would she have the power of laws that the veteran Daluo Jinxian had mastered. Without these two things, even if Meng Po was the Daluo Jinxian, she would not be able to capture its primordial spirit that had escaped underground. In this way, the demonic nether boar would not be completely killed and its soul would not be destroyed. After that, it would tell the Nether River Patriarch everything and let the Nether River Patriarch uphold justice for it. This was the reason why the demonic nether boar was so stubborn earlier. But now it had discovered something. Its great enemy, Yi Chun, was actually able to directly destroy its primordial spirit with that thick black spear in his right hand. Although it was only a part of it, if one spear could achieve this result, then what about 2, 3, or even more spears? It was very simple. The demonic nether boar would be directly killed by its great enemy, Yi Chun, and it would be the kind where its soul would be destroyed. How could the demonic nether boar not be afraid after realizing this? How could it not be terrified? Chapter 1082. I'm willing to submit. Stop poking. Seeing that Yi Chun was about to attack again, the demonic nether pig shuddered and hurriedly shouted at Yi Chun. Yi Chun couldn't help but raise his eyebrows when he heard this. Damn it, it really worked. Yi Chun had killed Sangarayan, so the chances of the demonic nether pig, as Sangarayan's grandmother, submitting to Yi Chun were infinitely close to zero. Even so, Yi Chun had still come to the nether realm to increase his chances of successfully snatching the red karmic fire lotus in the future. Originally, Yi Chun had thought that the demonic nether pig would rather die than submit to him. After all, the demonic nether pig had shown such an attitude from the start. Who would have thought that the demonic nether pig would submit when the Godslayer was used? How could Yi Chun not be surprised? Of course, apart from being surprised, he was also happy. After all, Yi Chun's goal in coming here was to subdue the demonic nether pig. Of course, even if Yi Chun subdued the demonic nether pig, he would use the ancient contract book to enslave it. He wouldn't use the normal method to subdue the demonic nether pig. At this thought, Yi Chun looked at the demonic nether pig and said, "Don't resist. Don't resist." When the demonic nether pig heard this, its bony pig face couldn't help but tremble a few times before it lowered its head heavily. Seeing that the demonic nether pig was extremely unwilling and helpless, Yi Chun smiled coldly. With a wave of his left hand, the simple and heavy ancient contract book instantly appeared beside Yi Chun. After glancing at the ancient contract book, Yi Chun's thoughts moved. The thought of signing a slave contract, a master-slave contract, or an equal contract instantly appeared in Yi Chun's mind. Sensing this, Yi Chun chose the slave contract without hesitation. After Yi Chun made his decision, a huge 8 trigrams formation instantly appeared on the ground, emitting tens of thousands of rays of golden light. Within the 8 trigrams formation, there were tens of thousands of runes and light screens everywhere. Tadpole-like words constantly swam on the light screens, creating a dazzling scene. At the same time, the sound of the great Tao appeared out of nowhere. After a momentary daze, after the demonic nether pig in the 8 trigrams formation, the soul fire in its eyes. Demonic nether pig at this moment, or else it wouldn't have acted like this. When Yi Chun's ants. You only have one chance. Don't think that I'm tricking you. The moment Yi Chun finished speaking, the spirit flame in the demonic netherworld boar's eyes started to flicker wildly. Upon seeing this, Yi Chun tossed the thick, black soul-killing spear with his right hand, which vibrated violently before it turned into a ray of black light and shot toward the demonic nether boar. Before the demonic nether boar could finish howling, the Godslayer pierced through one of the demonic nether boar's thick bones and pierced towards its bones again. The God-slaying spear pierced through one of the demonic nether boar's thick bones again. The demonic nether boar let out another miserable howl as the soul fire in its eyes started to tremble violently. It was obvious that the demonic nether pig wasn't calm at all. Otherwise, the soul fire in its eyes wouldn't be pulsing so violently. Just as the Godslayer stabbed the demonic nether boar for the 3rd time, the demonic nether boar hurriedly shouted, "Master, I submit, submit." After being stabbed twice by the Godslayer, a portion of the demonic underworld boar's primordial spirit had been completely destroyed by the Godslayer. This cruel reality brought the demonic nether boar back to reality. Unwilling to be a slave, unwilling to submit to death, and revenge were all nonsense. If Yi Chun continued to stab it like this, even if it was a divine immortal, it would have to say goodbye to this world completely. Death wasn't scary. What was scary was that after death, the imprint would disappear and it wouldn't be able to resurrect again. This was the source of the demonic nether boar's fear. When Yi Chun heard the demonic nether boar's pleas for mercy, he curled his lips in disdain and said, "Aren't you a little shameless? Why don't you just submit to me and you won't have to suffer?" The demonic nether boar's body trembled violently when heard this. When Yi Chun saw this, he smiled coldly. With a thought, 2 red pillars of light appeared and enveloped Yi Chun and the demonic nether boar. In the next second, a mysterious voice suddenly sounded. This was the voice of the soul. It contained a strong power of the rules and was also the foundation of the slave law. Time passed slowly. When the voice of the soul that contained the aura of the great Tao ended, Yi Chun felt that he could control the life and death of the demonic nether boar with just his thought. When Yi Chun sensed this, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Success! Just as Yi Chun thought of this, the demonic nether boar, who had just been taken as a slave, hurriedly looked at Yi Chun and bowed respectfully to Yi Chun. "Greetings, master." When Yi Chun heard this, he nodded in satisfaction. He then looked at Meng Pa and said, "Madam, what realm is Lucifer at now?" Yi Chun had long planned to let Lucifer go to the Western mythological world to cause trouble and plunder the resources of the Western mythological world for Yi Chun. In order to do this, Lucifer had to be strong enough. Otherwise, he would be killed by the god of light before he could cause any trouble. As for Yi Chun asking about Lucifer's situation, it was just a casual mention. There was no special purpose. If there was a reason, It was just to see how Lucifer was doing and how much potential he had. Husband, Lucifer has already reached the earth immortal realm. It won't be long before he advances to the sky immortal realm. After hearing Yi Chen's question, Mengpa thought for a while and said. When Yi Chen heard this, he couldn't help but be stunned. Yi Chen didn't expect Lucifer's advancement to be so fast. After all, when Lucifer was subdued by Yi Chen, his combat prowess was already at the 5th level. But now, after such a short period of time, Lucifer had already reached the earth immortal realm. This speed wasn't something that anyone could achieve. When Mengpa saw the stunned expression on Yi Chen's face, she immediately came to her senses. Yi Chen didn't expect Lucifer's cultivation to be so fast. After coming to her senses, Mengpa said, Husband, Lucifer has the godhead of the dark over God. His cultivation speed isn't slow to begin with. Moreover, this is the nether realm. That's why he has such a cultivation speed. Otherwise, he would at most be equivalent to a human immortal. When Yi Chen heard this, he shook his head and said, Wife, even if Lucifer's cultivation speed is extremely fast because of the godhead of the dark over God in the nether realm, it's impossible for him to reach the earth immortal realm in such a short time. Husband, are you saying that Lucifer is hiding some secret? Mengpa was slightly stunned when she heard this. Then she asked, It's possible, and the probability is very high. When Yi Chen said this, he thought of something and then shouted, Lucifer, come here. Lucifer had a secret on him. Otherwise, there was no way he could cultivate so quickly. As for what Lucifer's secret was, Yi Chen didn't know. But that didn't stop Yi Chen from making his decision. To be more precise, Yi Chen wanted to ask Lucifer why he was advancing so quickly. If Yi Chen could use it, then Yi Chen would definitely get it. If he couldn't use it, then it wasn't a big deal. It would only take a few words. As for the possibility that Lucifer wouldn't tell Yi Chen, or even run away and refuse to answer Yi Chen, that was impossible. After all, Lucifer was Yi Chen's slave. No matter what Lucifer did, he wouldn't dare to betray Yi Chen, much less plot against Yi Chen or disobey Yi Chen's orders. As soon as Yi Chen finished speaking, Lucifer, who was in the middle of cultivation, opened his eyes and hurriedly bowed in Yi Chen's direction. Yes, Master. After saying this, Lucifer flew directly towards the 9 depths frost pool. Chapter 1083. Before long, Lucifer's figure appeared in Yi Chen's line of sight. As soon as Lucifer landed, he hurried forward and bowed respectfully to Yi Chen. Greetings, Master. Yi Chen nodded and used his primordial spirit to envelop Lucifer with his divine sense. Lucifer was stunned when he sensed Yi Chen's action. He hurriedly controlled the energy in his body and stopped resisting Yi Chen's divine sense. If he did not do so, he would definitely be punished by the slave contract and suffer a fate worse than death. After a few breaths, Yi Chen withdrew his divine sense and looked at Lucifer. Lucifer, have you found a good place for cultivation? Since Lucifer was Yi Chen's slave, Yi Chen only needed to use his divine sense to know what kind of equipment and treasures he had. The problem was that Yi Chen did not see any treasures on Lucifer's body, nor did he see any equipment that could help him in cultivation. This meant that there was only one reason why Lucifer could advance so quickly. That was Lucifer had found a good place for cultivation in the nether realm. Otherwise, Lucifer could not have reached the earth immortal realm in such a short time. Even if he was already in the heaven immortal realm, it was still impossible. Lucifer was stunned when he heard Yi Chen's question. Then he hurriedly bowed and said, Master, I found a place with an extremely rich blood qi. I'll be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort there. A place with strong blood qi. Yi Chen was stunned for a moment before his eyes widened. Bring me there. Yes, Master. Master. When Lucifer heard this, he hurriedly bowed and saluted. After that, he immediately soared into the sky. Yi Chen looked at the demonic nether pig and said, You can do it as usual. Just do what you usually do. When I need you to do something, I will inform you. Yes, Master. Upon hearing Yi Chen's order, The demonic nether pig hurriedly said respectfully to Yi Chun. Previously, the demonic nether pig had viewed Yi Chun as an enemy and hated Yi Chun. But now, the demonic nether pig had been subdued by Yi Chun using the slave contract. It did not dare to have such thoughts. If it dared to even think about it, the slave contract would punish it mercilessly and let it know what it was like to die. If the demonic nether pig was not afraid and still wanted to plot against Yi Chun, the slave contract would destroy the demonic nether pig's soul. How could the demonic nether boar, who had clearly sensed the horrors of the slave contract, be happy with such an outcome? Therefore, the demonic nether pig did not dare to defy Yi of the nether pig. When Yi Chun heard this, he nodded in satisfaction. Then, he followed Meng Pa and flew towards Lucifer, who was hovering in the air. When Lucifer saw that Yi Chun and Meng Pa had caught up, it turned around and sped up. In the blink of an eye, it reached the speed of a normal tribulation stage cultivator. When Yi Chun saw this, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. He then looked at Lucifer and said, "Go at full speed. Don't worry about me." After Yi Chun finished speaking, the grade 12 Black Lotus of Destruction, which was madly absorbing the negative energy of the underworld, came to Yi Chun's feet. It carried Yi Chun and Meng Pa, who was in Yi Chun's arms, and flew towards Lucifer. Yi Chun directly used the 12th grade Black Lotus of Annihilation to hurry on his way. In fact, he wanted to reach the cultivation treasure ground that Lucifer had mentioned as soon as possible. Then, he wanted to check if the cultivation treasure ground that Lucifer had mentioned was the same as he had imagined. To be more precise, Yi Chun wanted to see if the place with the thick blood chi was connected to the blood sea. If it was, it would be great. As for the reason, it was very simple. Lucifer had not been discovered by the Nether River Patriarch when he was cultivating there. This meant that the Nether River Patriarch had not discovered that place at all. Since it was not discovered by the Nether River Patriarch, it meant that it was a safe route. In this way, Yi Chun could sneak into the Blood Sea directly from there when he was scheming for the Red Lotus of Fire. He did not have to fight his way into the Blood Sea. This did not mean that Yi Chun was afraid of the Nether River Patriarch subordinates. It was to avoid trouble and save time. If that place was not connected to the Blood Sea, it would not be a big deal. At most, it would only delay Yi Chun for a few minutes. Lucifer saw that Yi Chun's speed suddenly soared. After a slight pause, he glanced at the grade 12 Black Lotus of Destruction under Yi Chun's feet and sped up again. However, no matter how much Lucifer sped up, Yi Chun, who was standing on the grade 12 Black Lotus of Destruction, could keep up with him effortlessly. After realizing this fact, Lucifer's reverence for Yi Chun instantly soared. Yi Chun was at the peak of the crossing calamity stage. Lucifer was at the Earth immortal realm. But what was the result of competing in speed? Yi Chun completely defeated Lucifer. Moreover, it was the kind of easy. What did this mean? It was very simple. The grade 12 Black Lotus of Destruction under Yi Chun's feet was a genuine, super magical weapon. Otherwise, such a situation would not have happened. It was also because he noticed that the grade 12 Black Lotus of Destruction under Yi Chun's feet was unusual that Lucifer's reverence for Yi Chun soared again. It couldn't be helped. Lucifer knew how many transcendent godly weapons his master, Yi Chun, had. He also knew how powerful they were. And now, his master, Yi Chun, had taken out another super magical weapon. How could he not be shocked and in awe? Along the way, Yi Chun did not see any creatures of the Nether Realm. This was because Lucifer's aura had already driven the weak creatures of the Nether Realm far away. However, Yi Chun did not care about this. Yi Chun came to the Nether Realm for business, not for sightseeing. Moreover, there was nothing to see in the Nether Realm, where darkness was the main color. After 10 minutes, Lucifer brought Yi Chun to a blood-red mountain. At the top of the mountain, there was a volcano that was erupting lava. "Master, the place of cultivation I found is inside the volcano, about 300 meters away." Lucifer stopped and pointed to the blood-red mountain in front of him. Then, he bowed respectfully to Yi Chun. Hearing this, Yi Chen glanced at the blood-red mountain. Then, with a thought, he released his divine sense that was comparable to an earth immortal's. When Lucifer saw this, his face suddenly changed, and he hurriedly shouted, "Master, you can't. The lava here has corrosive properties. If Master's divine sense comes into contact with the lava, it will be burned directly. Then Master's primordial spirit will be injured." "It's okay." Hearing this, Yi Chen smiled and said. After that, his huge divine sense went straight into the volcano that was erupting lava. Then, it followed the lava and went straight into the volcano. Most of the things in the nether realm had special properties. Yi Chen was not surprised that the lava here could corrode the divine sense. Yi Chen did not care about this because Yi Chen's divine sense had been refined by the Grand Sun Primordial Fire and the Grand Moon Primordial Fire. Its flexibility and firmness had long been abnormal. Yi Chen didn't care about crooked corrosion at all. Besides, Yi Chen just wanted to explore this place. His divine sense did not have to be in contact with the lava. There was no need to care about it. When Yi Chen's divine sense came to 300 meters inside the volcano, a 2-meter-wide cave appeared in Yi Chen's divine sense. Sensing this, Yi Chen's divine sense went in without hesitation. His divine sense went all the way and turned one corner after another. Then, it came to a small space that was the size of 3 people. As soon as Yi Chen's divine sense entered this place, all kinds of negative energy melted rapidly like snow under the scorching sun. It was not until the negative energy gathered on the ground that the melting process was interrupted. Then, it became a stalemate. Sensing carefully the negative energy and extremely pure blood qi constantly emitted from the ground, Yi Chen's eyes suddenly widened. It was very similar to the aura emitted by the blood sea, but he could not be sure. Thinking of this, Yi Chen's divine sense went straight to the ground that was constantly emitting negative energy into this volcano cave. In the next second, Yi Chen furrowed his brows. This mountain should be similar to the forbidden magic stone, isolating the divine sense from probing. In that case, thinking of this, Yi Chen, who was standing on the 12th grade black lotus of destruction in midair, used the fiery eyes of gold without hesitation. At this moment, 2 balls of flame suddenly ignited in Yi Chen's eyes. Then, 2 rays of golden light shot out from Yi Chen's eyes. In the next second, Yi Chen looked straight at the volcano in front of him. After a few breaths, a passage full of scarlet blood appeared in Yi Chen's sight. Seeing this, Yi Chen's eyes shone brightly. The blood of the blood sea, it was really the blood of the blood sea. Damn, this trip to the netherworld was really not in vain. Chapter 1084. Yi Chen couldn't help but smirk when he thought of this. He then looked at Meng Pa and said, "Madam, this place is forbidden. Madam, this place has become a restricted area. No one is allowed to enter. Trespassers will be killed without mercy." Yi Chen had already made the red karmic fire lotus a must-have item. Therefore, after he ascended, Yi Chen would definitely sneak into the blood sea when his realm was about the same. And this passage that connected to the blood sea was the best choice for Yi Chen to sneak into the blood sea. If Yi Chen didn't control this place well, and someone from the nether realm accidentally barged in and discovered the secret here, Yi Chen would have to fight his way into the blood sea. This would waste a lot of Yi Chen's time. This wasn't an outcome that Yi Chen wanted to see. Meng Pa, who was beside Yi Chen, nodded without hesitation when she heard this. "Don't worry, my husband. I'll remember this." When Yi Chen heard this, he couldn't help but feel warm in his heart. He then said, "Madam, if the Nether River Patriarch notices this place, remember not to fight him head-on. Just give up." Although Yi Chen wanted to take a shortcut and save time, Yi Chen didn't want Meng Pa to guard this place to the death because of this. Otherwise, Meng Pa would definitely be in danger. After all, that was the Nether River Patriarch, who wasn't any weaker than the Grand Wizard Hutu, the Eastern Emperor Tai, and the Demon Emperor Jun. Even if Meng Pa was now the Daluo Jinxian, she wouldn't be able to defeat the Nether River Patriarch. It couldn't be helped. The Nether River Patriarch had the Yuan-Tu and Avicii swords and was a veteran mighty figure. Mengpa felt a warmth in her heart when she heard Yi Chen's words. She then gave Yi Chen a sweet smile. "My husband, I understand." Yi Chen stroked Mengpo's hair when he heard this. "Remember what I said. Don't do anything rash. Your safety is of utmost importance." Mengpa nodded gently when she heard this. When Yi Chen saw this, he smiled slightly. He then looked at Lucifer and said, "Let's go. Don't cultivate here in the future, lest you ruin my grand plan." Yes. When Lucifer heard this, he hurriedly bowed. Although Lucifer really wanted to continue cultivating here, he wouldn't dare to disobey Yi Chen's orders even if he had 10,000 guts. This was the horror of the slave contract. Even if Lucifer was the son of a light god, there was no exception. When Yi Chen heard this, he nodded with satisfaction. Then, with a thought, the grade 12 black lotus of destruction under his feet instantly turned into a ray of black light and then disappeared in a flash. Beside the frosty netherworld pool, at the bottom of the passageway to the underworld, a black light flashed. Then they saw Yi Chen and Mengpa appear, standing on the grade 12 black lotus of destruction. Upon seeing Yi Chen's arrival, the demonic netherboar hurriedly greeted Yi Chen respectfully. "Master!" When Yi Chen heard this, he nodded and looked at Mengpa. "Madam, I'm going back." When Mengpa heard this, she hugged Yi Chen fiercely and then said, When Yi Chen saw this, he waved his right hand and the leaves of the grade 12 black lotus of destruction suddenly began to close, enveloping Yi Chen and Mengpa. When Mengpa saw this, she was stunned. "Husband," Yi Chen didn't answer Mengpa. Instead, he hugged Mengpa and gave her a long, deep kiss. After a while, Yi Chen let go of Mengpa. He then looked at the blushing Mengpa and said, "Madam, I really have to go back." When Mengpa heard this, her eyes suddenly reddened. Then, she turned her head and said, flying up from the grade 12 black lotus of destruction. When Yi Chen saw this, he was slightly stunned. When he came back to his senses, a strong sense of guilt suddenly rose in his heart. "I thought that Mengpa was the strongest among my women. I didn't expect her to be the same. That's right. Even if Mengpa is a Daluo Jinxian, so what? She's still my woman, my wife. As a wife, how could she like to be separated from her husband?" Just as Yi Chen thought, Mengpa didn't want Yi Chen to leave the netherworld, but she also couldn't prevent Yi Chen from leaving the netherworld. It was a very contradictory answer, but it was the truth. She thought that it was because Yi Chen couldn't stay in the netherworld for long now. Otherwise, he would be discovered by the heavenly Tao of the netherworld. In this way, Yi Chen's plan would be completely affected. She didn't want it because Yi Chen would soon ascend to the untainted land. Once that time came, unless Yi Chen took the initiative to enter the netherworld, Mengpa would never see Yi Chen again. As for the reason, it was very simple. The heavenly Tao didn't allow Mengpa, who was formed from the essence blood of the grand wizard Hutu and his primordial spirit, to appear in the untainted land. Since Mengpa couldn't go to the untainted land, could Yi Chen enter the netherworld often? Definitely not, because Yi Chen had to establish a foothold in the untainted land first, and this required Yi Chen to spend a lot of energy and time. Otherwise, it would be impossible to do it. It was also because of this reason that Mengpa wanted to spend more time with Yi Chen. Otherwise, after Yi Chen ascended to the untainted land, she would have fewer chances to meet Yi Chen. However, Mengpa was very clear that Yi Chen couldn't stay in the netherworld for long. At least, before Yi Chen ascended, he couldn't. Therefore, even if Mengpa didn't want to, she had to let Yi Chen leave. And how could this not make Mengpa's emotions so complicated that she couldn't control herself? It couldn't be helped. Even if Mengpa was a Daluo Jinxian, she couldn't get rid of her emotions. After all, she had become Yi Chen's woman. Moreover, Mengpa didn't cultivate the Tao of Great Oblivion, so she didn't need to wipe out all her emotions. Therefore, Mengpa's emotions were very rich. Of course, Mengpa's feelings were only for Yi Chen. No one else could influence Meng Po's feelings. Thinking of this, Yi Chun sighed secretly. Then, he looked at Meng Po and said, "Madam, after I ascend to the immortal realm, I will often come to accompany you." Before Yi Chun could finish his words, Meng Po interrupted him. "My husband, business is the most important thing. I'm still waiting for you to remove the shackles on my body." Meng Po's serious words stunned Yi Chun. After taking a deep look at Meng Po, he said solemnly, "Madam, that day will come. That day won't be long. Trust me." Hearing this, Meng Po smiled sweetly at Yi Chun and replied. After hearing Meng Po's reply, Yi Chun took a deep breath. After exhaling a long breath, he used his mind. The grade 12 black lotus of destruction shook instantly, then turned into a black light and flew straight to the netherworld realm's passageway. In the next second, Yi Chun disappeared without a trace. Meng Po glanced at the netherworld realm's passageway and then directly rose into the air. In the blink of an eye, she arrived in front of Yi Chun. It was indeed the blood-red mountain where the passageway to the Blood Sea was. "Greetings, mistress." Lucifer saw Meng Po arrive and hurriedly bowed. "Pass down the order. From today onwards, this place will be my husband's territory in the netherworld realm. There must be someone guarding here every day. In addition, tell your subordinates that no one is allowed to cultivate here. Those who disobey will die. If you find any intruders, kill them without mercy." Meng Po glanced at Lucifer and then shouted. As soon as Meng Po's words fell, her beautiful black hair fluttered in the wind. Her peerless face instantly became as cold as an iceberg. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.